Hi, good afternoon. رح نبلش. So, أول شيء thank you. Second day is a little bit fewer people, but I'm sure that in a few minutes it will be a few more. So we could breathe a bit. وامبارح كان في كتير شوب. So ألف عافية لكم. It was a heavy load و heavy breathing but it was great. Yesterday we focused a lot on the templates. So what are those templates that you can use, being it for startups, NGOs, for-profits, large corporates? The panel was more corporate. This panel will not be corporate. You will have one corporate, which is Fadi. Nadine is a scale-up, although she probably considers herself corporate, but she's a scale-up. She's a corporate. We'll go back. So Nadine is in the middle of plenty of growth. So this is what we say. Yusr is also in a similar situation. So you have both ladies, both extremely strong entrepreneurs. Both organizations are women-led. In the case of Nadine, these are pretty much 95% plus of the 300 employees are all women. In the case of Yusr, all the management team are all women. So this is quite important, and you will see the dynamics is different when you have, and the questions you will have, and the way they answer will be very different. Today, اللي هنعمله is we're going to focus on the case studies. So what we will show you is how these templates are being implemented across different organizations. So when we work with you, but then maybe after this two-day session, one or two or three of you would come, talk to Lama, can we have a meeting, can we sit down, can we talk together, can we do a part of this journey together? Because we need hand-holding, and we do. So we select those where we fit. So what we do here, we're planting the seeds, and these seeds, then we go and we continue working with them. And for some of these organizations, you will see in the case studies, I've been working with them for more than 10 years. So these are actual, bonjour Mireille, ça va? Mireille is heading one of the entrepreneurship course at the USG. So she has been driving it, and she's also an entrepreneur. So she lives and breathes her job. Je te fais de la pub, Mireille. So we have, why are these case studies important? Because the case studies is helping you visualize what we have been covering yesterday in a bit academic way. I try to make it with practical examples, but it's still a bit academic. Here you will see it actually how it is practiced, how is it implemented. And each are real case studies with real companies. Here we have in Lebanon. We have some outside Lebanon, but we'll focus today on the Lebanese one. We may have one is outside the country, so that you will see how those companies are implementing it, and then you will hear it. You will hear it from Yusr, from Nadine, and from Fadi. Now, Fadi is the executive chairman, and at the same time, he's the CEO of the Sayyid Ali Dabani group. So he's an old friend. We started together a long time ago when we created the first VC fund. So this is 17 years ago. A number of you were still in university. Some of you were probably in kindergarten. So this was the first VC fund. It was Sami Baidoun. It was Fadi Dabani. We had the Kafalat person, Khater, for those of you who know Kafalat. No, Khater. Khater Abu Habib, excellent. So Khater Abu Habib, bravo عليك. أنت بتعرفيهم كلهم يا منى. Yeah, we have to sit down with Muna, get all her networking. هيدي كتير مهمة. With all the boards. So we had, and this was important. Why? Because it was the first actual attempt in Lebanon to set up a fund to be able to invest in companies and help those companies scale. تفضلي. So please have a seat. So this is, so what I was saying, today it's going to be on these case studies. We will have the roundtable discussion. Some of those templates will not apply. It's okay, don't worry. You're going to have a library of it. We will send you a lot of information, which includes articles, it includes the slides, it includes some of the case studies, not all, in terms of, but most importantly, it's not the slides. It's not going to be the case studies. Most importantly, what you will see the benefits is when we sit down and trying to understand your specific challenges that you're facing and how we could help you. I mean, today we were into two different companies, completely different setup. One was a full NGO, non-profit, also very faith-oriented that you have. So you will see, because a lot of you say, Constantin, what applies to NGOs? Actually, what applies to NGOs, trust me, applies to the others. So this organization, and probably the best summary that we had in it, and we had the general manager of the entity that we have been talking about, is how do we combine the heart of an NGO with the mindset of a business person. So you need to have the impact that is coming from the heart, but at the same time the mindset. And this combination is what would make a successful organization. So it's NGO doesn't have an own language. NGO have an impact, and we want to maintain this impact, but if you don't have the business mind that comes from the private sector, and this came from the founders. They have 9 different schools. They have 9,000 students. They have old people, residents, etc. And he came from his own word, is that what we need and what we lack is in our NGO is people with a mindset of business. So this is why you will have this interaction between the two. Slides, please. Okay. So yesterday we covered a number of the topics. Lama, I leave it up to you. The case, we cannot start with the case study right away and then go back to this. To start with the biomass. You had questions on board assessment. Okay. So one of the topic that came, she's not here. It's too bad, but she probably will come. It's about board assessment. The same way you're assessing a CEO, the same way a board needs to be assessed. So the case study, okay. So this is a company called Biomass. Now Mario is not here; he's unfortunately traveling. But we developed this with Mario. Mario is the CEO of Biomass. He's known by a few of you. So we have been working with Mario for the past 4 years. We have been working on advisory support. This is typically one of the buckets that we do. We have also helped in terms of investment brokerage. So in terms of preparing the company to raise funds, understand, and we covered a number of their transformation plan, their business model, their financial model, developed a term sheet, helped them in terms of an event, in terms of fundraising, and then we also have been helping on the board advisory. What you will see now as this case study is we will focus on the board advisory. We could focus on the other dimensions. For those of you who don't know, it's a family business established in 2007 to become a grower, aggregator, processor, distributor, importer, and exporter of certified organic products. So the name of the game is really about organic product. And what they do is they cover the entire element of the value chain. The company is committed to ethical and responsible farming methods, offering quality, healthy, tasty, and environmentally friendly consumer food. Located in Lebanon, Biomass is actively promoting organic products and projects in Lebanon and across the region. This is their value proposition. This is where the supply is, raw material sourcing. Where do they get it? Either from their own farm or from contract farmers. Or from some of you who have lands. I have to happen land. The NGO that we were present with had a number of lands available that are not leading anything. These are land that are left. So, and Mario is really looking forward at having these lands. He comes, make the proposal, and show you what could be planted and how much revenue we can generate from it, and what will be your income, and how do we split the income between him running this farm and you collecting the. So the sourcing, the farming, you have the eggs, olives, fruits and vegetables, eggs production, then you have grocery products. The packaging, he does it. He has a packaging center. For those of you who have not been, it's above Batroun. He has his restaurant, very nice restaurant, by the way. I encourage you, if you have a Saturday or Sunday, you want to bring the family. It's a nice place, nice view, nice setting. And he has also his packaging center there. But he's also working on private labels with grocery products and others. And of course, he's selling through what? Primarily supermarkets. So he has about 700 different point of sales where he sells his product. So this is the company. This is where they're based in Batroun. 13 farms in Lebanon, has established collaboration with 45 farming partners. This is where we're pushing. How can we move from 45 farming partners to 100 farming partners? When Nadine will come on board, you could ask her. She's working with thousands of farmers and helping them. So this is where the impact starts. Because each farmer has what? Has at least 10 to 20 people depending on it, family members and others. This is where you create impact. You're not only creating impact by helping those farmers plant better, irrigate better, use fertilizers better, but you're also helping those farmers get out of the poverty level, because this is where most of these poverty levels are. So this is what we define as a social enterprise. They're for profit, but at the same time they create an impact in terms of environment with energy savings, water savings, and others, but also in terms of the way you irrigate. So this is where his farm is, and these are the different farming partners. So these are farmers, we call it contract farmers, with whom they work, and then they buy the products, they train those farmers, and then they sell the products through the network that they have. The Massoud family has a number, they have a big, it's in the quarantaine, if you have been extremely well advanced, sophisticated in terms of warehousing. Next slide, please, Lama. Okay, so this is the restaurant that they have. This is part of where the farm is. A great place, actually, to organize weddings, to organize, actually, he had his own weddings last summer in the, okay, so this is the board effectiveness. So we had a whole range of services that we had to provide. We helped him put together his transformation plan. We helped him map his growth opportunities. We helped him take these growth opportunities into a financial model. We helped him understand what is the funding gap that he needs, how much money does he need, when does he need the money. But we also help him look at his leadership team. What are the gaps that he has in his leadership team? How is he going to fill those gaps? So we went through a number of elements of his business model to be able to help. And one of the elements, one of a long list of it, was to assess the board. So the way you do it two ways. We discussed it yesterday. You either discuss it, you could ask the question to Fadi. With Fadi, what we said, we sat down, Fadi drove the process, and then we had all the board members, and everyone came up, and basically we assessed Fadi, because he was the chairman, so he was asking the question, we're giving him feedback on it, and then we were rating ourselves as a board. So this is one way of doing it. It requires a lot of trust among the board members that we have, but this is the way to do it. In this case, we did it differently, and in most cases, it's difficult to always find the same level of trust, is that you look at an independent, and in our case, we were independent. We sat down with all of these board members, and we went through the questionnaires with them to understand what is working and to understand what is not working from their own perspective. And based on this, come up with an aggregated view. Once we have the aggregated view, we share it first with the CEO, and then we go to the board and we share it with the board. So what we're presenting you is the end result that was presented to the board. So we went in. Are you with me? So is it clear? Okay. So what we did is we said there are different buckets that we have. The first bucket is on the selection, induction, appointment, training, and tenure of board members. So what we have here, board secretary, there was no board secretary being present. Chairman, tenure, and contribution, the chairman was there for a very long period of time. A chairman like an external auditor, you need to change chairman over a certain period of time. Clarity of role, not clear role between the chairman, between the CEO and the board. So develop clear role description for the board members versus what we have in the executive team. This whole discussion between roles, responsibilities, results, and rewards between the board is important, and this needs to be done. So you put here what are the action, you put here who are the responsible people, and you put here a certain timing frame that you have. And then what you do, you review. It's the board, of course, responsibility to review this. The second one of the board structure. Board structure does not have a balanced mix of executives. And this is typical of a lot of boards. You will see that they're all either typical engineers when we're talking of tech startups, or others could be, so what they typically lack, what do they lack? For startups, what do you think they lack? What do you think are the functions that lack the most in startups? I'm sorry? Okay, finance, they lack finance. There is another one that they lack. It's the market. It's actually the go-to market. It's the sales and the marketing. They're normally good in technology, what they have pretty good technology, and then they tend to live on their technology, and our role is really to be able to, and you have different pillars. Now at the board is the same level. So here the notion of independent board directors came in with formation of new boards. So here we said, let's go, and some of you have decided we have board problems, what do we do about it? The board, this is post-funding. No specialized committee. There was no committee. So the board ended up doing everything, reviewing the financials, looking at operational, and the board will typically spend days, which is not the role of the job. The role of the board, normally it's half a day every quarter, and this ended up being much longer. So here what we said, no specialized committee, especially finance, risk, and audit. This will come up to be always the most important one. This is, by the way, for NGOs and for non-profit and for profit, to provide oversight over financial reporting as well as biomass risk management, internal controls, and compliance. So what we did, we decided to launch a finance risk and audit committee. Same thing if you ask Fadi, we also decided to launch this. This is quite important. Why? Because you offload the board. You offload the board, it's them, the committee that works, review the risk management framework, we'll show you how it is, review the financial results, we shared some, we will show you some others that we have. So all this will be done by the committee, and then the committee comes and report to the board. So we don't spend, yes. It is both. You will have committee will be coming from people from the board, and it could be people from outside. So typically for finance, audit, and risk, you want to have somebody as a chairman who comes maybe from outside, who has a, you in the committee you don't. Normally you don't, but you could have examples where you do, but normally you don't. So what you do is you have either board members that are in the committee, or you could have some outsiders that come in that are not board members, but you use them because they have a specialty either in audit or they have a specialty in risk. You definitely invite executive to the same way you invite executive in the board. When you looked at the board agenda that we covered yesterday, we had CEO update, CFO update, and you might have twice a year HR. What is happening with HR? Another year we need to look at legal matters or IT matters. So you look at these executives come, but they're not part of the board. They present to the board. The CFO present to the board. Even the CEO, although he's the major one, he might not be a board member, but he's present in all board meetings behind it. Okay, but so this is launch the validation of proposed Finance, Risk and Audit Committee Charter, suggested members, so we have suggested, this is the responsibility, this is the funding. Next slide. Okay, so then we looked at the board functioning. So there is a pacte d'actionnaire, shareholders agreement, not supplemented by a board charter, so we need to have a board charter. Absence of code of conduct and conflict of interest policy. These are documents that you need in terms of compliance to ensure that there is no potential conflict that would happen. You develop it. All of those are fairly straightforward to develop. And this, again, applies to non-profit and applies to for-profit. No difference. No when there is a difference, I'll let you know. Broad range of KPIs to assess companies' performance. So what we want to do is if you have too long a list, for instance, when one of the companies, there was about 3 pages of KPIs, forget it. If you have 3 pages with 30 or 40 KPIs, it means you have non-KPIs. So what's important, KPIs means key performance indicators. So what are the indicators which are the most important and most relevant to this organization? And normally you should have about 10 to 12, 10 to 15, not more. And we push it a step further. So this is where, and we will show it to you with another case study, which is the balance scorecard. So here we have to institute the KPI review by the board. Example, budget versus actual for sales revenue, gross margins could be a KPI, working capital ratios could be a KPI, cash flow from operation could be KPIs, etc. So we will choose what are those key performance indicators that are important. These for NGOs would be related to the number of people you're impacting, will be related to the water saving you're generating, will be related to the incremental food production, will be related to the children that are going through some sort of educational process. You decide what these KPIs are which are relevant to your organization, but you need to have them. Now what's more important is we took it a step further. It's not only we listed the KPI and we're holding the management in charge of the KPI, the bonus scheme ends up being a weighted average of maybe 4, maximum 5 KPIs that we decide. So not only from 40 we're going to zoom in on 15, but we're actually going to make your bonus based on your performance on what we define as 4 or 5 KPIs, and we give them the weighing factor. What you do this is you focus. This is what's important to us. You make sure that it is clear in the mind of all stakeholders, and you align the bonus plan and it could be the bonus plan and it could be the long-term retention plan. Now the long-term retention plan, when you are a CEO, this long-term retention plan could be, but could be 5 times her annual salary, could be 10 times her annual salary, depending on the value that is being created of the organization. So how do you go about defining these long-term plan? You go back to the KPIs that you believe are critical to the organization. Short-term, I'm not a board assessment. Had the biomass board assessment. So I was waiting for you, but you were a bit late. So this is quite important. Go back a slide just for her. I'm not a special treatment. So we went through the process. So this is the outcome that was presented to the board. So we went into what were the gaps that we saw. We went is what is the proposed action, and this is biomass. This is biomass. This was done a year and a half ago. So we did, and we did it instead of doing it informally among us. We appointed, in our case, it was us who did it with the board members on a one-to-one basis. With Fadi, you could ask him the question. With Fadi Debane, we did it among the board. So we sat down, he drove the process as the executive chairman, and he said, how did we perform on this, on this, on this, and we'll show you the different questionnaire. So these are two ways. With biomass, we did it the external way. With Sayari Debane, we did it the internal way. Lama, next slide. Thank you. Okay, so with the broad range of KPIs, board performance assessments, this is the first time they had it. So we're going to run it either on an annual basis or biannual basis that you have. So either third party or the chairman that you have in this case. Next slide, Lama. Yes. Okay, so what we have here, board agenda and calendar, which one is it? Previous slide, Lama. Okay, so the shareholders agreement or supplemented by board create a board charter that reflects the needs of biomass by setting out the board's roles and responsibility, requirements for its composition, meeting procedure. And okay, this is what it is. It's the charter. So what you do normally for family businesses, who asked the question? You asked the question. You have to do it two ways. The first way is that you have to make sure that the family has a governance. The same way that the business has a board charter, the family needs to have a family charter. We call it what? We call it a family constitution. So this is what you need to do. So the family needs to be structured in a certain way before we start getting into the board. Because at the end of the day, it's the family that ends up appointing, you know, the chairman and appointing some of the... So this governance starts at the family level and then we'll move to the... so the board charter will show you an example. So how do you go to making sure if we disagree, we refer back to the board charter. So the board charter is here to help us resolve whatever issues that have not been clarified or where we have no alignment. Yes? Yes. Okay, so why we have post-funding? What we have, because here what we're doing all this to do what? We're doing all this, a part of the reason is to raise funds. So in this process, we wanted to raise funds. So part of the fund, Nadine was in the same program, Biomass was in the same program, Compass Baladi, another. They got about, I don't know, $250 or $300,000 in terms of grants. So, but they also got grants from other sources. So this was some of the funding, but these were milestone-based funding. Then what we did, why do we do the exercise, is to get additional money. In this case, it was $1 million in terms of debt funding that we wanted. But why did we do post-funding? Because some of those required an investment. And these investments will come from where? From the funding source that comes. So this is why, in terms of the timing, we put it post-funding. So they raised the funds last year, about a year ago. So they raised about $1 million that they have on top of the grant that they have received. It is a very good point. You will see it. It's not a KPI. It will be a KSI. When we cover the, so what is the difference? The KPI is the measure. So what is the measure? If I ask Zahir what is his measure, he's going to tell me number one, Constantin, it's going to be revenue. He needs to make his revenue number, and there is aggressive growth that he has. Number two, he will tell me gross profit. I want to know where is his gross profit compared to last year, compared to other countries, because we have the data across the country. He will tell me operating profit. He will tell me cash flow from operation. Then we will add to it his working capital or whatever it is. So he knows what are these KPIs. But at the same time, we have KSIs. So what is the difference? It's a breakthrough initiative. So what will be the breakthrough initiative for him? For him to be able to make 30 or 40% growth during the year, he needs to make sure that he is augmenting the portfolio of his product and services. And part of it is that he's onboarding agri-tech companies. So companies that have, and he's testing their products. So this is a strategic initiative. It's taking time. He's generating reports. You know, he had one with Duda. He had another one with Remer. He has another one with Smartland. So he comes and says, Constantin, this is what we got in terms of report. This one we believe this is good. So this is a KSI. So KSIs means identify the companies that have the greatest potential and then make sure that we invest in them. Another KSI would be not at his level, but at Fadi's level, is I need to raise a certain amount of money. It's a large amount of money. So this is a KSI. The funding, so this is the funding, is a key strategic initiative that requires setting the holding in a different country, identifying the potential funding source, deciding whether you want debt funding or equity funding. All of those, these becomes KSIs. Opening a new country is a KSI. Making an acquisition in Egypt is a KSI. That we do. Opening up in East Europe to have our operation is a KSI. These are strategic initiatives that takes time, that uses money, that uses people to do it, and they influence the KPIs. Do you understand the difference between the two? So this is important, and this applies again for non-profit or for profit that you have. Vas-y. The board performance assessments reach definitely the board of directors, because it is, and this is normally it's shared with the shareholders. So during these annual either conventions, what you do, it's important, because at the end of the day, the family needs to feel comfortable, because the board is here to do what? To protect their interest. So they want to see what are those gaps and what are you need to do, what needs to be done in order to make sure that they address the gaps. So it makes a lot of sense for those board assessments to also reach the shareholders so that they're aware. So broad range. Next one, Lama. On key business dimension. Okay, so we have board agenda and calendar and their preparation. Revisit yearly calendar. We have shown you some calendars. Ensure preparation matters. So the board pack. Board pack is an important one. You don't want to come to a board when it's not prepared. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time for us as board members. It's a waste of time for the executive. So the preparation, first you need to have a calendar that makes sense. But then we don't want to meet every month. We don't have the time to meet every month. It's normally half a day every quarter that you have. You could stretch it to one day every quarter. I showed you in the past. But the calendar is important. The topics are important. What are the topics? You don't want to go into micro details. You want to keep it at a certain level. And the third dimension is you need to make sure that your board pack is complete and is ready. If it's not there, the discussion would not have the same quality. Okay, so this board pack, we showed you some of the examples. And this, again, those applies to both organizations, for-profit and non-profit. So you need to revisit the calendar of board meetings, ensure preparation papers at least 10 days before. This is always an issue. You know, so we have, so for instance, tomorrow, full day, we have a board meeting. So with Fadi, today, tomorrow, two boards. So this is the DSG board, entire board. We received the board pack when? About 10 days ago. So we had the chance to go through it, prepare ourselves, and be ready to contribute to it. Board guidance and feedback to management on regular reports sent on key business dimension. What we do here is that if we believe that the quality of the board pack or the quality of the information is not complete, it's the responsibility of the board to say this is missing. This is what a best-in-class financial budgeting look like. This is what a best-in-class balanced scorecard looks like. So you, as a board member, have the responsibility to go to the executives and to help them put together their board pack. We showed you the templates. Some of those you will see now in the case studies that we have. Minutes of meetings currently not accurately reported. You imagine the minutes of meetings or matter arising not reported. This is the whole governance of a board doesn't work. So appoint a board secretary. The board secretary is in charge of taking the minutes. As highlighted earlier, in absence of secretary, appoint a person responsible for taking notes and producing the minutes. And then board meetings to be facilitated by chairmen so that they didn't have an official chairman behind it. Next slide, please, Lama. Okay, so this is another way that we have gone through it. We showed this slide yesterday. We proposed this to Biomass to have February, April, July, November. Typically when it happens, it's the months after. It's the second month completing the quarter. Why? Because financials needs to be what? Needs to be done. And it takes normally 3 to 4 weeks to get the financials after you close. So if it's a closing is January 1st, you normally will not have your audited financial statement before end of January. Hence, you will have your board meetings typically during the middle of February. So you have February, same thing applies for April, we have July, and we have November. And then you will have the different topics. In this case, you apply the topics depending on you. So what is of matters to you, what is of matters to the shareholders. So it could be related to liquidity situation, external market review, or any others that you will feel are important. For NGOs, what are the critical burning platform? Most of the NGOs, in terms of critical burning platform, is going to be that we spend 2.5 hours. Lama told me it was too long of a time with them. Is to make sure that we define clearly what is their strategic intent. What are they trying to do? And their story needs to be a story that is well differentiated compared to, in Lebanon we have 20,000 NGOs. Out of these 20,000 NGOs, I'll bet you that you're going to have 3/4 of them are going to disappear. Unfortunately, they will disappear, and the reason why they will disappear primarily is going to be lack of governance. Because what you do is that a lot of them are doing very similar work to the others. So what I told the founder, I said, look, what we want is we want a story that is different from the other stories that we have in the market. We want to make sure that this story is interesting enough for those potential sponsors or potential investors. The second thing we said is we need to make sure that people will give you money as an NGO. But more and more NGOs would only receive the money if this money is going into projects and programs that will make the NGO sustainable. So don't ask me for money. Show me that this money is used into revenue-generating possibility, and these revenue-generating possibilities will end up over a period of time. It could be 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years. So there is a mindset shift in NGOs from you need to get the money, but this money is here because you have a project that could help you be financially autonomous. If you don't have it, trust me, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to be able to raise capital. Extremely difficult. So we will invest in programs or projects, and I'm mentioning the example. I won't mention the name of the NGO, but we spend a lot of time. They have huge plots of lands all over Lebanon. These plots of land today are not used. They're not used, so they're not generating revenue. Now we gave them examples of how other NGOs have used plots of land that is not even theirs. Though this is plot of land that they have rented at a subsidized rate. We had, for instance, we used the case of Mark Beiruti. So we went with Mark. He took this plot of land, not very big, 3,000 square meter, 4,000 square meter. What did Mark do? He first built his greenhouse. By the way, she's not here, Nadine. Nadine provided the greenhouse at a certain price. And in it, he has all the money and he has all the artisans coming from people that are working across the country. But he said, I need to bring people. So how do I bring people? He used the greenhouse to do events. So all the events are organized in the greenhouse, and he charges for these events. He said, but how do I get Lebanese? Lebanese, they need what? أول شيء شو بدهم؟ بدهم ياكلوا. So what they say is they have came and they have now a few stores, a few shops. I'm بحكي on you providing the greenhouse for Mark Beiruti. No, but this is, so he got the restaurant. What is he doing now? He's going to build a training center to provide training on sustainable agriculture and on other matters to do. What is he doing next to it? He's going to build a botanical garden, first ever botanical garden in Lebanon that will come in. This is the use of land. Who was the land for? Al-Batrakiye. What was the Batrakiye doing with it? Zero. And you have tons of lands owned by so many other entities that today are idle. Now with the one that we talked, this is one example. The other example, when we talked about biomass, which is here, biomass is in need of land. So they would look at your land, they will assess the land, they will tell you what you could plant on the land, they will all plant it for you, they will prepare the land behind it. At least you have your land generating fruits, generating vegetables. So we have all these, and unfortunately it's religious groups that owns most of the lands in Lebanon. وعندك الناس ميتين الجوع when you have this land which is not being used. So this is incredible where we could use this. So this is one way of closing the circle of, so these are examples of, anyway, I'm going to, so the message to NGOs is you need to tell me what are those projects that are going to generate, help you get financial sustainability. Okay, so this is, so where do you do it? Strategic investment allocation. So this is it. Show me your option, and then we will see whether we allocate money behind it. Next slide, please, Lama. So we help them. This is a typical thing. So all of you will need to set up at one point in time a board of advisors. This is in one sheet. We will tell you the objective of the board. You could take it and you will adapt it to yours. One sheet. This is what is the board's responsibility? What are the different elements in terms of the, this is the Finance, Risk and Audit Committee. We have the same thing for the board. I showed it yesterday, the lifespan, the decision-making process that we have, and we have the same sheet for the board. Next slide. We should, This is not, this is it? Okay, all right. So this is an example of a board assessment. When Fadi is going to be here, you could ask him. Some of you should ask him, how do you go about assessing your board, and what do you take in terms of decisions behind it? Not assessing a board is you don't have any proper governance in place. It's important to do it. It's not only assessing. What is important beside assessing is what? It's implementing the actions. We have all the actions. What you need to do is to make sure that these actions are being, if they're not implemented, ma'amil nashi. This is why what does internal audit do? They raise red flags. They raise the risk areas. And they will tell you this is high risk, high impact. And then they tell you what needs to be done. And they give you an owner and they give you a timing. But if nobody is coming back 3 months later to see what's happening, ma'amil nashi. And in most internal audit, their frustration is that their recommendations are not acted upon. Till the point where we say now, in our scorecard, if any of the CEOs of the business in this organization have less than 90% of the action documented, acted upon 3 months after we have reviewed, this is a red flag, no bonus payment. Then they say, so you need to make sure that you are not only assessing, you're making sure that these recommendations are being implemented, and you need to make sure that you're taking action in terms of these. If you don't have this follow-up, ma'amil nashi. Assessment alone is not good. It's assessments, corrective actions, ensuring that these corrective actions are implemented. Is this all clear? So this is one real-life case study. Any questions on biomass in the case study? What has to be efficient? Absolutely, yes. It has to be efficient, yes. Each one of you is a different entity. This applies to all companies. It applies to, normally at the board level, the chairman has a responsibility. So the chairman is responsible for a lot of the operations of the board. But you as a board member, you have a responsibility also. If you feel that some of these elements are not included in the agenda, it's your responsibility. Sit down with Fadi, sit down with Nadine, sit down with Ghassan or whoever it is, and say, look, I would change the agenda. I will put more external issues in it instead of only internal. I will put at least 2 days per year to look at strategic over the next 3 years instead of only focusing on what's happening next year. I will, so these are the sorts of the responsibilities. When we say we, it's the chairman that at the end is the master organizer. But as a board member, you are responsible also to voice if you feel that some of these elements are not being put in place. I will even put it from the CEO. So the CEO, normally you interview the CEO, and you want to make, what is the expectation of the CEO from the board? And what are the expectations of the board from the CEO? So this discussion needs to take place. We are hiring now a new CEO, so what we want to do is we want to make sure that this dialogue is taking place. Expectations from each other needs to be clearly stated and clearly articulated and clearly documented. So the we applies to the stakeholders. Typically it's the chairman, typically it's the board directors, typically it's the CEO, and it could be in sometimes the family members. Yesterday you heard Rafael Debani, elderly gentleman in his mid-80s, had a long career behind it. He is a shareholder. He is not anymore active in the business. He could come from time to time. He's a shareholder that we have, but he has a lot of history behind it. He needs to be informed. He needs to know where the organization is going on it. So in some ways he's also part of the stakeholders because his dividends are important and the state of the organization that he has developed is also important. Any other questions? Yes. 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 This is an excellent introduction to the balanced scorecard. The balanced scorecard is one way of documented what you said. How do you enforce accountability? Is you have to state what is the person, who is in charge of what, and by when do they have to, and review this on a quarterly basis. And behind, so can we go for another? We go directly to the Nyaho one. Okay, this is another case study. This is a company I've been with 10 years. This company is in Ghana. I've invested in this company. I haven't invested in biomass. We help biomass. I might invest in biomass because I was conflicting. I was an advisor and I could not, this was part of a portfolio. In the other one, I was with Stanford, but once I graduated, once we finished the coaching service, I was allowed to invest in the companies that I was coaching. So this is the case of another one. This is a medical center. So this is the medical center. I've been with them now for 10 years. I help them on 3 fronts. You will see that the fronts are always the same. Put together the transformation journey. We spend a lot of time in helping the company structure. So where is the growth going to come from? How are we going to get there? So we have a process. We'll be happy to spend more time on it. This is not the right forum behind it. Then we helped as a board advisory. Here we tell these are the recommendations. If you only said recommendation and you're not helping the board to implement the recommendation, you're doing only a third of what needs to be done. So this is quite important to follow up. And this relationship is not 1 year. It's not 2 years, it's 10 years. So this is where you really get to know the organization, you really get to know the players behind it. We also have done funding. So we help them raise funds, but I also invested some of our own money into it. Once after a time, we understand them from here. We know the team. We have a clear understanding about their ability to execute. Then it's the right time to decide whether we want to do the funding behind it. So these were the 3 steps, and you will see in most of the case studies, we will do the 3 steps. So this is the entity created in the 1970s. I don't want to go through the details. We'll have it as a site. 51 years of experience, international awards, medical specialist, level of customer satisfaction that they're tracking. Next slide. Okay, so they have a vision, mission. Mission is why do you exist? So mission is you exist to deliver a certain service to a certain customer that generates a certain benefit. The vision is what you aspire to be. To be Africa's most trusted name in healthcare. What is the mission? To transform the lives of patients by surpassing expectation in healthcare, inspiring hope for a better Africa. These are the values. So typically mission, vision, values you always had. Most of you would have it. Next slide. Okay, so this is their value proposition. They're very close to the international airport because you have a lot of people coming for medical reason. They have leading medical and domain expertise. They have best modern tool and technology in turn patient records, best-in-class picture archiving and communication system, etc. They have 24/7, 365 stores, literally seamless, hassle-free experience and insurance coverage for over 30, from over 30. So this is their value proposition. They have also a foundation. So part of it is not only they're providing healthcare, but they're also the foundation is helping provide the healthcare to people who don't have the means to do it. So they do it for helping people who have access to care. They do it also by publishing in terms of thought leadership. They do a postgraduate training program, and then they do research and development. Next slide. Okay, the business, this is typically what has been presented. I've put the one on 2020. 2020 is when the COVID started. So this was the beginning of the COVID period. This is a board presentation. So the board presentations comes, performance review 2019, value growth drivers. This is where is our growth coming from over the next 4 years. What is our budget for 2020? What is our balanced scorecard that you're going to be held accountable? This is where we focus on the KPIs and the KSIs. This is our structure, and they could be annexed. Very clear, very succinct, very structured. Being it ONG or non-ONG, it's the same source of structure. What has been your key highlights for last year? Where is your growth going to come from over the next 3 years? Show me your budget for 2020, yes. This document is normally prepared by the CEO, by the CFO, normally the team is involved, you will see it, and it's reviewed by the chairman before it's sent back to the board. So as a board, I receive it, prepared by the CEO, a lot of support you will see coming from the CFO, so a lot of the matters discussed, the executive team does it, but at the end of the day, who owns it is the CEO and the CFO. Both plays an important role because a lot of it is financially driven. Yes? Yes. Yes. Yeah, we've done this. Yesterday you were here. Okay, yesterday we had a slide where we specified the role of the board versus the role of the management team. When we said management team, is the CEO. We have one slide. We had one slide. It goes... So we had it, and this is one slide, so I don't want to go back because it takes, but there is another one that you have is delegation of authority. So normally you have the split of responsibilities, but at the same time you have delegation of authorities to say, normally the CEO approved to a certain level. Above a certain level, he knows to go to the board. So this is, so the two goes together. So but it's... No, the CEO, the chairman is here to look at the overall issues. He's here to make sure that the board is functioning properly, that people are contributing on it. The executive, the CEO, is here to implement. So there is recommendation from the board. This is what we believe your strategy needs to be. These are the growth opportunities you have missed on it. We suggest it. They come back, and then who does the execution? The CEO does the execution. The board is here to review that the execution is set. So I'm going to make it simple. The chairman and the board is here to set, this is the direction. This is the framework, how we're going to get there. These are the people that we believe needs to execute, and then give them the freedom to execute. The CEO has the responsibility of taking this within this framework, aligning with the strategic direction, and ensuring that you have proper implementation taking place. So this is, and then the board review on a quarterly basis, how is this execution taking place? So the board is not into execution. The CEO is into, so there is a huge difference between the chairman and between the CEO. Yes? No, we have, look, the chairman is the chairman of the board. Is the chairman of the CEO is the CEO of the company. A CEO reports to a board. The board has a boss. The boss is the chairman. So normally the CEO, so you cannot have the CEO and the chairman the same person, because you cannot report. The chairman or the CEO of the board, exactly. You wanted to, but CEO has the word executive. A chairman is non-executive. I mean, it could be executive. Fadi is executive chairman, but normally it is not. Hassan.
I'll try to simplify it. In my case, I'm on the board of the international school overseas. And as a board, we consider that we have only one employee, the headmaster of the school. And the whole idea behind it is that we set the goals, we set the strategy for the school, we review how we are along those goals that we have set, and we don't interfere in any micromanagement. So I don't know if that's going to help you. We're here, we're here for all the long term, we're here for all what's legal, but we don't run the school. We only have one employee. Exactly. Absolutely, absolutely. And we do what Constantin has said. On a regular basis, we self-assess. Everybody at the school reports to us in their self-assessment, and we also self-evaluate ourselves at least once a year.
Thank you. Thank you. We have to move. Yes. But quick question. Yes. 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 No. It could work both ways. Typically, what you do, it's in the financial budgeting or the planning, business planning, financial budgeting. You typically start the process in September. Typically, the board sets together with the executive. Together, we brainstorm, we agree on certain framework. So how much growth, how much profit, how much we want to hire, what technology. So we go on to then the executive team goes and develops this, represent to the board gives feedback, they go back again, so it's a top-down, bottom-up approach, and then normally in December, khalasna, and what I'm going to show you here is the result. This is the result of so you're right, it's both ways. You start together, let the executive team come up and do their homework, present the homework, give them some fine-tuning remarks, and they come up with the final version. We approve both the business plan and we approve the financial budget. Okay, any other questions? Yes? Yeah.
We said that there's the board and there's the boss who is the chairman. He's the boss on the company, but not on the board. So he's the focal point for the board. Is he the boss for the board? No, because the board is independent and they have what to say. And another thing, if we take an example of an educational institute, so we don't have a CEO or a chairman, we have a dean and the president. So here, if it is good to take that example and to check, like comparing an educational institute to...
Yeah. I mean, the educational institutes or a hospital, it's the same. So what you do is you will have a president of this. Typically in universities, you do have two types. You have a board of director that handles a lot, and you also have a board of trustees, because a big portion of universities is not coming from tuition fees, and it's not coming from executive program, it's coming from donors. So for this, you need the board of trustees. There, the connotation is more fundraising. So there is a strong fundraising dimension to it, but the board of directors would have a chairman. The presidents report to the board of directors. So the president of the university reports to the board of directors. The board of trustees is here to facilitate the process, in most cases to be on fundraising perspective. So who is the person in charge of the execution of the plan? It's the president of the university. Who is in charge of presenting this the plan and the budget? It's the president of the university. Who approves it and gives feedback? It's the board of directors of the university, headed by the chairman, that facilitates the process, that approves the budget, approve the financial plan, approve audited financial statements, and approve key hires, approve appointment of external auditors. So this is the responsibilities of the board. Is this clear? Where the president goes into executing on the plan that has been jointly discussed, that he has the responsibility of executing. The board is here to review that the execution is done properly. Okay, I need to move. Next slide, Lama. Yeah. Yes, tfaddali. Yes. Yes, small business. Yes. 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 A board pack. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Absolutely. Okay, this is a very important question. I'm going to make it as simple as we can. What is the question is for startups, for initial startup, ما عندن كل الوقت. By the way, this was a startup. But for startups, what we do is we keep it simple. What is simple? On one slide, on one single slide, I have 4 quadrants. I want you as a CEO to tell me what were your key achievements in the last quarter. Key achievements. This is ربع slides. The other is I want to know what are the key challenges that you have faced during the quarter. I want to know the third priority is what are your priorities for the next quarter. And I want to know the fourth one is what help do you need from me. One slide. One slide summarizes. Now with this, this is what I call the CEO report. One slide. This is the simplest that you will get in terms of reporting, but it contains all the information that I want. The other slides that I want is your balance scorecard. وراح فرجيكي on one slide كيف البالانس scorecard. I'm going to show you the one for Beit al-Baraka. I'm going to show you the one for Wakilni that we have one. We have helped them put together one slide. One slide has the KPIs and one slide has the KPI. So in total 2 slides. وهيدي بكفي كبورد باك. بكفي. So this will be the simplest of all the board packs that you could get. So this, and this, don't tell me it takes you hours, it doesn't. It's something that you could do, and it's important that you do. Now the others is you add. So for instance, you have decisions. So normally for each decision where you're not sure, you write a 1-pager or half a pager. This is the situation I'm faced. These are the options I have. This is my recommendation on what do you think? So this is on 1 page. So I will end up having my status report. I end up having my balance scorecard. I end up having 1 or 2 or 3 of the discussion topics, in total 5 slides. Okay? To wrap it, you have to have financial statements. So normally on a quarterly basis, I want to see maybe not your balance sheet. لأنه البالانس شيت نعملها كل 6 أشهر أما كل سنة. Okay? I want to see your income statement. بدي أعرف شو بعتي شو ما بعتي. And I want to see your cash flow. بدي أشوف الكاش فلو تبعك. هيدي you have to. So this is the base. وهيدي ما بتاخد وقت. هيدي إذا بنص يوم ما فيك تعملها. Every quarter we need to do it. This is the simplest way of having a board pack present. Here it's a bit more sophisticated, but when they started like you. Okay? So let's go. I'm going to take you. So this shows you, but I showed you how to make it simple. Is this clear how we make it simple? And by the way, this applies to all. So what is the key achievements, key challenges you faced? What are the key priorities that you have? And what is the support that you need from the board? Okay, so this is the one slide. The other slide, we'll do it. Next slide, Lama, please. Okay, so this is the one. This is going back. These were the key highlights. Revenue, EBITDA, quality and safety. These were the key points. This is once a year. You could do it once a quarter. هيدي one pager اللي حطيها. Key progress highlight. This is what we have done. critical risks and challenges. This is my issue that we are facing. So this is one slide summary. واحدة على السنة اللي عملوها. So we have, next slide please, Lama. Okay, this then gets into the balance scorecard. What is the balance scorecard? We agree on KPIs, key performance indicator. In the case of an NGO, it might not be revenue. Actually, it could be revenue, because in an NGO, what is revenue? Donation is a revenue. The donation is a revenue. So this is, now what we want is we want your revenue to start becoming not 100% donations, but to be 90% donations, 80% donations, 70% donations. So what you have. In this case, what we do, and the balance scorecard, we look at the 4 categories of stakeholders. Who are the 4 categories? The shareholders or the donors. The second one are your customers. Who is your target audience? The third one is how efficient you are in your business model. And the fourth one are your people. So this has to do with partnership, has to do with system, SOPs that you have on it. So these are the buckets. And what are the typical KPIs? This is the one for, we didn't mention it. Okay, so this is one of the companies. So we have shareholders, we have customer excellence, we have efficiency, and we have employee. These are examples. You could choose only 1 or 2. So let's take her case. She has to report revenue. She cannot not report revenue on a quarterly basis. She has to report gross profit, which is revenue minus the cost of producing her cakes and her mish cakes. About 60, she has it 68% gross profit. Operating profit, what do you have? Minus operating 10%, 15%, I'm about to break even. 10%. So she has it at 10% here. You might have net income or not. We might have one on cash flow. I want to see what is the cash flow from operation. Mishbas funding, operation. Is she cash flow positive? Amabad, cash flow positive? Always. So this is cash flow. So we put it. And in case there is dividend payout, بلشت dividends or بلشت. طيب هيدي ثابت. So هيدي we will remove it. But we have done her KPIs from a financial perspective. But هيدول ما بيكفوا. Yes. We could, for the NGO, the revenue will be there. It's your grants. How much grant are the gross profit, because the NGO is delivering a service. Let's take the NGO is delivering education to disadvantaged students, okay? So what you do to deliver this service, you have people who are employed to provide training courses. These are the people who are delivering the service. This is part of what we call the cost of goods sold, because they are delivering, it's the cost of delivering your service. So we take this, and then she has it because she's buying raw material, she's doing packaging. In your case, you're hiring people to help you deliver the course. So you will come with a gross profit. So this gross profit typically will be 40%, 50%, whatever it is. In her case, it's a bit higher. Then in the case of the NGO, you have the cost of hiring your people who are the trainers. But you have all the other costs. عندك rent, عندك marketing, you have the GM salary, you have assistant, you have secretary, عندكم transportation, عندكم electricity, عندكم others. These are operating expenses بنحطها. So we move from revenue minus cost of goods sold, yani minus the cost of the training program that you're implementing to your disadvantaged kids, you get to the gross profit. Minus your operating expenses, which are all the other costs which are not related to producing your good or your service, you get to your operating profit. And in your case, you might not have a net income, you have a surplus, or you have a deficit that you will get it. You will have a cash flow. You will have what is your cash flow position at the beginning of the year or the beginning of the term. You don't have dividends. You don't have shareholders, you don't have dividends. So it's the same that you will have in your case. Let's move to the Hedi in terms of the KPIs. These are indicators. You're flying your plane, عندكم indicators. Altitude, speed, pressure, كل شيء. So this is one on finance. The second one is on customers. How do we measure if she's good with customers? We're going to take the one is we look at, is she growing her revenue? Is she gaining, normally I would say, are you gaining market share? So she will say, Constantin, it's tough to understand. عندك market share data? ما في market share data. So you know how much approximately? Not reliable. Okay, so it's only for, so approximately what sort of market share you think you have? Yes. Okay, so she has 15% market share, which is here, or if you don't have market share, which is difficult, you will get revenue growth. In the case of your NGO, You are providing training services for these disadvantaged students. Who are the others that are providing the same sort of service? Trying to get a sense. Who are the key? So those, and how many students are they providing? It gives you an idea about how many students you are training versus how many students are being trained by other NGOs or entities that are doing it. So this is an indication of your revenue growth or your market share. The other one is recurrent. This is something that you will hear a lot. What I'm not only interested in how much revenue she's generating. What I'm interested from Sumaya is tell me how many of these revenues are coming back from the same customer. What percentage of her business is coming back from the same customer? How much is it? 87. No, no, no. It's okay. Okay, this is very important. Why it's important? Okay, I'm explaining to you. What is recurrent revenue? Are the revenue that you are getting from the same customer. So you have revenue comes from existing customer and you have revenue coming from new customers. What is the percentage coming from existing customer? Why is this important? Because it shows customer loyalty. مش بس satisfaction. أنا مبسوط بس إذا ما بشتري مع عندها مرة تانية مبسوط بس ما المحل. Okay. Okay, so this will be another, not yet. So we need to, so let me continue. I'm not going to, but we normally sit down with each, we're going to show you one which is complete, foreign NGO. ما راح نفرجي non-profit, راح نفرجي NGO. بس تنبسطي. So we have, the other one here is that you have the incremental number of new clients or new customers or customer satisfaction index. You know, for instance, today we're going to ask you whether you're happy, not happy. This is important for us. Well, how can we improve? You know, how can Lama and Constantin improve? What sort of other services we can deliver? How good are we with the content? How good are we in the way we deliver? How good are we with the panelists that you have? These are important for us so as to be able to see how we could build up. Same thing for any organization. You need to capture the voice of your customer. So this is, and these are metrics, measures. It could be once a year that you do. The other measures here are efficiencies. So efficiencies could be your revenue per head count, could be in the case of, I don't know, in the case of Zahir, how much inventory he's carrying, how much receivable he's carrying. So this is a measure of efficiency. And at the end is your employee. Are you keeping your employee? Are your employee happy? Are you losing top talents? So these are all measures. These are KPIs. The KSIs are the initiatives. These are not measures, these are projects. To do this, I need to raise capital. This is a project. How much do you want to raise? I want to raise $300,000 this year. And how much are you going to raise next year? Probably about $1.5 million. This becomes a project. It's a key, it's not business as usual. It's a key strategic initiative. I want to launch a board of advisors. أول مرة عم بعملها. This is a key project. We will help you find the right board. Put the board charter. Train your board people to make sure that we're all in line. This is the project. I want to launch new point of sales locations. This is the project. I want to launch an ERP platform. This is a software platform to connect all the different functions and automate them. I want to put together and document my standard operating procedure. I want to get to ISO certification. These are all initiatives that has to do with efficiency. These initiatives takes time. And the last one here for people, what are the projects? What is the number one issue with the companies today? Is retention. So a number of companies are looking at the employee stock option program. This is the project. How do we structure it? Who are the employees that we want to have them in this project? Specific functional training. What we have here is a functional training. But we have some training that we conduct at the companies that are adapted to the companies. Here it's adapted to different of you. All of those, so in one slide, I have everything I need to know. So I have my, can you show another slide completed? Okay, so this is the example of Beit Cans. This is Beit Baraka. So this is Beit Baraka. I know it's very small. So I'll let you, but I will read it for you. Don't worry, don't worry. It's the same principle. This is the revenue. So what she shows, 2023 actual. This is 2024 targets. This is the budget for 2024. First one, what are the key measures? Revenue, gross profit, operating income, what is the cash balance? We have it for last year. This is what we're aiming for this year. So we specify as a board and we approve this. This is the key measures of financial performance that we believe are important. What are for customers? This is no, it's the restaurant and the the Mooney shop and the art workshop. So it's the three together. So that, but what we want to do is we want to grow it into different locations. So this is so the second one is level of customer satisfaction. They track it, 78%. They want to aim at 85%. Follower base, how many followers? 27,000. They want to move to 35,000. They look at their inventory. Inventory is important. They carry 65 days. They want to move it to 45 days. They reduce inventory. I'm going to come to you. Wastage, they have 3%. They want to bring it to 2%. This is a real case example of a balanced scorecard. We look at the end, employee retention, they're 88%, which is very high for Lebanon. Normally, a lot of companies are at the 60% level or 50% level. Employee satisfaction, they haven't measured it. We want to measure it. They're aiming at 80%. And top talent retention, they haven't measured it. We want to measure it. So these are the measures. If we go back to Maya, and we say, Maya, if we want to hold you accountable, out of these KPIs, we might decide to choose 3 or 4. We might tell her revenue is critical, operating income is critical. We want to make sure that your working capital is it, and we say these are for us the most important, although this is your balanced scorecard. Every quarter, what does she report? She reports where she is versus this. It's one slide that contains her budget and contains the key priorities. What are her key priorities? Fundraising. We help them do a first fundraising round. We close it in December. We're doing another fundraising round that will close in Q3. By June, we will close at Q3. Yeah. No, Beit El Baraka is an NGO. Beit Kanz is an SARL. So Beit El Baraka, Beit Kanz generate profit, and this profit goes to Beit El Baraka.
Okay, but if you're going to raise fundraising now
for Beit Kanz,
selling equity or
debt financing, no equity, debt financing, yes. Yes, but we might decide to do it as equity. But for the moment, we raise it at subsidized debt. This becomes the dividends of the major shareholders. She can decide to do whatever she wants. It becomes her dividend policy. We agree on a dividend policy. And then this amount of money, she takes it and she uses it with Beit Al-Baraka and others. Okay, please, one discussion. Yes. These are real figures. No, Wakilni, we haven't shown the figures. We haven't shown. We have validated with Maya. We can show the figures. So with Wakilni, no, with Wakilni, we're showing the numbers without figures. Breathe and relax. We don't show this if we don't have approvals from the company. But we hope one day Wakilni will not have any problem in showing the figures that they have, because this shows what? Transparency. Transparency, because if at one point in time you want to raise funds, you want to become like a public company and you want to raise, today she's raising it. She's raising it, we're about 30 investors, she's sharing it with us. What do you think the investors is doing? Showing him to his sons, to his daughter, to his uncle, to his, so in some ways it's becoming a bit like, but I agree with you, it is not shown. And this is the point I've actually made to my friend Lama here. Okay, but the point is not the figures. The point, you have a few figures. You might have 3 or 4 figures. These are the important ones that we believe you want to track. These are the important projects. We want to have the fundraising. We want to assess the board. She wants to assess the board. When is she going to assess the board? How is she going to assess the board? When are you going to do it? Who is going to do it? In this case, we will do it with the CEO to assess the board and to make changes in terms of the board, the way we've done it with biomass. What is here? We want to do a hotel on Beit Kanz. بعد 6 شهور إن شاء الله بنعزمكم. We will have an hotel and the foundation for the art et métier that will be there. We want to have the complete feasibility study being done. We need to understand how much fund is being raised. We have 2 of the investors. It's 3 investors who have funded Maya, and we went through this round behind it, and we provided the funding in order to secure, because we believed in, but to do this, we need to have the full feasibility study, we need to have the proposal for the building projects behind it, and then we want to introduce a customer satisfaction survey that she didn't have. On this, we want to start on the efficiency, we want to look at the franchising book. We have a model that is working. We have a model that is profitable. We have a model that has proven that we could make profit. We want to franchise it. So to franchise it, you need to have a franchising book. You need to have a so we're developing this. We're looking at adopt calendar activities across different departments. Okay, this is more training. And you have, so these are initiatives that they have done in terms of either employee training, this is training, in terms of empowering line managers, in terms of launching the employee satisfaction survey, hiring for key positions. These are the initiatives that you have. This is a balanced scorecard. It's one sheet. Next one. Excellent question. So what we do, this is what happens. This is when you report, green is on track. Yellow is slightly off track. Red is way behind track. If you start to have performance that is becoming a sea of red and not a sea of green, we have an issue in terms of execution. So we need to understand why it's happening, and we need to understand what happens. Normally 1 quarter, first red flag. 2nd quarter, poor performance, second red flag. 3rd quarter of consistent performance, we have adopted correction actions not working, we might have the wrong CEO. Or we might have the wrong strategies. That it's a combination of the two. Either it's not the right priorities that we're focusing on, or the people who are implementing it are not the right people. At this point in time, the board has responsibility to take actions. And if we don't take actions and we allow complacent, unless they are well documented, I don't know, civil war started, so this is a major, but then we agree, but we take actions in downsizing, in reducing, in so the responsibility of the board to review, and it's the responsibility of the board to, if we have to change a CEO, we change a CEO. It depends. Some boards are more complacent than other boards. Some boards are very family-oriented. La Yame, he's parting. He's been here with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. We want to keep. And some board members say you can't. So there is discussions about board members. Independence tends to be fairly vocal on it. And then decision has to be taken. So you might, so there is ongoing. This is a good question to ask Fadi or to ask Nadine on it. Because you will have, if you allow below performance to continue, you're sending a message across the organization. So you're sending it. So it's clear, it's accepted. Okay, so this is, so we have it here, and here we have the initiative. So what is the initiative name? When was the due, and what was the goals? Here we didn't put the initiative, it's up to you to put your, but this is how a balanced scorecard would look like. So this is on financial excellence. Next one, Lama. It could be on customer excellence. It could be here we have, I don't know, you might have some yellow. Lama has been good, she has put yellow and green. In my cases, you have red in this case. Retention of staff, we're at 77%. We should have been at 90%. This is a definite red. Why is this happening? We're supposed to be at 90%. When you put black, means this is completed. When you put green in terms of a project, it's on track. When it's red or yellow, it's off track or completely off track. So this is a clear way with scholars to show where are you, and you don't need to have 10. You might have 3 or 4 KPIs, and you might have 2 or 3 key strategic initiatives. But if you don't specify it, you do not measure, and you do not set the clear responsibility of your CEO. This is done for the CEO, and the responsibility of the board is, 1, to clarify those, make sure these are realistic, make sure that these can be implemented, and then make sure that these are reviewed, and make sure that these reviews generate actions that is either positive reinforcements, hiring more people, allowing more budgets, more investments, or negative means letting people go because people are not delivering. So this is the responsibility of the CEO, is to execute on the balanced scorecard. The responsibility of the board is to approve this balanced scorecard, which includes budget. It's to improve and includes the key strategic initiative, to review them, to take actions accordingly, and to repeat the cycle. Is this clear? So this is a real-life case behind it. Next slide, Lama. Yeah, we go ahead. So this is example, go ahead. Okay, so this is we have done, so this is bad, continue. So this is example, continue. Okay, so this is, so that continue, so these are the financials, continue. Okay, cash flow is important. A lot of times we don't show cash flow. It's important that not only you show normally your income statement and you show your balance sheet. The cash flow, and remember cash flow, 3 buckets. Cash from operation, cash from investments, cash from financing. Cash from operations is critical. Are we cash flow positive, yes or no? Independent of the funding and independent of the investments. This is quite important. And it's come from your profit but it also comes from all the changes in your working capital. This is important. Here the investments, are you investing or you're selling, divesting? And here are you raising funds or you're not raising funds? This cash flow needs to be also included in the documents that you have and presented to the board. Next slide. This is a way to look at a 3-year in one slide. One slide. I like the one slide. We show these are 219. This is what we want to be in 223. This is our revenue. This is the net profit. This is the return on, I don't want to go into the detail, but this is the measure of how profitable is the organization. All organizations that I work with have an ROIC. ROIC is what is the minimum threshold that you need to achieve so that you recover your cost of debt and your cost of equity. All organizations are funded either by debt or by equity. Equity has a cost, debt has a cost. In Lebanon, the cost of debt is very high. The cost of equity is always higher than the cost of debt. So on average, for operating companies like, I don't know, like the Quinta Group, I would say on average, her cost of capital will probably be around 20 to 25%. It's going to be similar to the person sitting next to her. So, and we compute it. And every year we decide this is. So why is this important? Because this shows if we have a project and the project has a return which is lower than this return on capital, what it means, we're destroying value. This project is not adding value. So this becomes the benchmark. The return on invested capital that you want becomes a benchmark for new project or new initiatives that you have, and then you might have new capital. So what do we have here in the business model? What will we offer? To whom will we offer? How will we compete? And these are the priorities. So it's in one slide, you have all your projections over the next 5 years. Well structured. You could use it, apply it to your organization. These are all templates. For profit, non-profit, it doesn't matter. Next slide, please, Lama. Yes. 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 Higher. Okay. All right. Because, okay, you said that the cost of debt is high. Why should the cost of equity be higher? If it's a cost of debt, take the example, I won't choose Nadine. I forgot the name of the company. Taka. So let's say Taka wants to borrow debt. Today she needs debt. She's going to go, the bank will tell him, we love you, beautiful products, great thing, but we don't, mafi masare. But she manages to get from a financial institution that is, keen, fiber, entrepreneurship. We're going to tell you, they want personal guarantee. They will ask her for collaterals that they have, and then we'll give it to her at a 15% interest rate, 15% interest rate, which is extremely high, fully collateralized. This will be today in Lebanon, and she'll be lucky if she gets it at 15%. Okay, so this is, now if she's a bit clever, she says, okay, I'm going to set up my company in Delaware, which is your friend here has done, or I'm going to set up my company in Cyprus, or I'm going to set up my company in Abu Dhabi, because the country risk goes down, and my cost of debt is not anymore 15%, it might become 6, 7, 8%. So this is the way to change your cost of debt. But in Lebanon today, if you want to raise it, if you raise it at 15% fully located, you are pretty happy. Now, why is cost of equity higher? Because as a debt holder, you hold debt and you have guarantees. You have her personal guarantee and you have collaterals, land, equipment that she has. In case she doesn't pay, I can access the land, I could access the equipment behind it. In equity, mandashi guarantee. Equity, I jump in the same bed. We are together. We're not going to, she suffers, I suffer. She gains, I gain. So there is much higher level of risk. Because there is a higher level of risk, there is a higher cost associated with it. Low risk, low cost of fund. High risk, high cost of fund. If 15% is her cost of debt, I will bet you that 30% will be her minimum cost of equity. I.e. means that if I, Constantin, invest in her company, I would expect over the next 5 years to be able to make at least 30% per year because I am exposed. I am exposed and I don't know how she's going to perform. Where if I was a debt holder, I have something to hold against. Do you understand it? So this is why cost of debt is always going to be lower than the cost of equity. Okay, and some countries have high cost of debt because of the country situation, but also it could be the company's ability to execute. So you have different factors behind it. Any other questions? Okay, so this is important. Next slide, Lama, please. Okay, so this is another one, and this you will do it, and Lama will cover it. What we do is that we want to know where is your growth going to come from. This for NGOs is fundamental. What we covered today, I forgot your name, Amir. What we covered with Amir and we said, okay, what are the growth opportunities going to come from? And we discussed a few. He said we have plenty of lands, so these lands, we could make it available for contract farming. This is one growth opportunity. We have a number of schools, but we have one school which is completely free, completely open. We could rent the schools to another institution that will be able to do it. This is another possibility to generate revenue. We could look at Shuhkinabad, the school empty, we talked about the land. We talked also about the existing school that they have, how can we expand the curriculum and have the curriculum being more appealing to potential donors because it could include, I don't know, civic education, entrepreneurship education, or other education. So we looked at the curriculum. All of those are initiatives. This is non-profit. This is not for-profit. These are initiatives that will increment. We would list those. Here the hospital has listed. They're doing a satellite in urgent care. They're doing a day clinic for primary care. They're doing a health. You list those. You then list the investment that is needed. When we're doing it for Beit Kans, we have the feasibility study. We know how much the hotel is going to cost. We know how much it's going to cost to refurbish it, how we want to do it. So we list the investments. We also list the incremental revenue that we expect. And we list also the incremental profit. Then we define what is the net present value. I don't want to go into the details, but this will help you do it to see whether you could make money out of it. We look at your internal rate of return and we look at your risk. And the combination of your risk and your return gives us a sense. You present this to the board, and it's the board decision to decide which of these opportunities are we going to fund this year and which we're not going to fund this year. So this is also part of the exercise in the budgeting process that any of you, NGOs, this morning was with an NGO. And we identified those three, and we said these are, but there might be some others that we're going to think of and discuss that we have. Any questions on this? This is, and Lama will go in detail. Next slide, Lama. Okay, so this is at the end, it's what? It's the result for 19. It's the target for 20. It's the key value drivers. It's the critical assumptions. On one slide, we present the budget and we defend the budget on one side. In this case, it's the income statement. But it's not only the income statement, it includes the working capital, which is balance sheet. It includes operating cash, which is the cash flow. It includes headcount. So on one slide, I have my income statement. I have the key element of my balance sheet. I have the key elements of my cash flow statement. I have one slide. These are my drivers. This is the results obtained. This, for me, is valued slides, condensed slides. مش 10 صفحات 20 صفحة بصفحة واحدة عندي كل شيء اللي بدي أعرف عن الشركة. So this becomes your board pack. Doesn't need to be a 50-page document. It could be a 10 or 15-page document. Next slide. Then we move to risk. All the plans, we have risks. There is always risk, so your role is to list those risks and then to make sure what is the likelihood and what is the impact. Low, medium, high. Then you have the risk exposure. The risk exposure needs to be measured, either impact on revenue or impact on profit, and then what is your mitigation plan. هيدي مهمة. Few companies do it systematically. You cannot do a budget and you cannot have a plan without having your risk management framework. I need to know what can go wrong, and I need to make sure that you are well prepared in case something goes wrong. And this is what the risk inventory is all about. So we put the risk, we put the likelihood, percentage that is happening. It could be low, medium, high. ما بدنا نحط كتير. What is the impact that you have? So in this case, delay in getting the funds from capital raise. What is the likelihood? Medium. What is the impact? High. Why? Because you won't do any of the growth opportunities. You won't get them. What is the delayed revenue from satellite? This is how much delayed revenue for the year. 1.5 million Ghana CD that you will have. What is the mitigation action? Refinancing current loan to absorb finance cost, expansion of other services to bridge gap from revenue lost, etc. So you list what is the contingency plan. This applies for non-profit. It applies for for-profit. I need to know what are the risks that you have on not meeting your budget for the 2024, and I want to know what are your mitigation action. You cannot put us in front as a board, to put in front for us to approve a budget and for us to approve a plan if you don't have a risk management framework. You need to have it so as to make sure that you are prepared in case of the worst case scenario. Any questions? Okay, so this is a good question. Typically what happens is that you will have in a budget you will have what we call the real life. This is the most likely scenario is your budget. So if I go to Zahir, what is your most likely? This is the case of Zahir. So I say, okay, Zahir, suppose that there is a war. What do we do? I want to know what is your worst case scenario. So worst case scenario, Birja, Zahir. Lebanon, worst case scenario, I have to cut headcount here. I have to cut my revenue here. I will have this sort of thing. So we will have then a real life or a base case. We call it a base case scenario, which is the most likely scenario. But I might have a worst case scenario in case something goes wrong in terms of all these risk areas happen and the mitigation action. So the way you do it is through scenario planning. So you have a base case scenario, and we always want to be prepared for the worst case scenario. Always be prepared, aim for the best, achieve the base case, but be prepared that the worst case scenario could happen. And this is your role. And it's not easy because the worst case scenario means headcount cost, means delay in certain investment that we want to make, means investors or donors to put more money into the companies or others. So the answer is scenario planning. Base case, worst case, you could also have best case on it. And you will see that some GMs are more conservative than others. Say, for instance, in the organization that we work, we have about, in the best side, probably 18 general managers in 18 different entities that you have. Some are extremely risk averse. We're going to grow by 50%. We're going to go this. Others are extremely conservative. So you know that the conservative, and you know after 2 or 3 years, what is the likelihood that they will do. The conservative is not going to do 10%, it's going to do 20%, and the guy who's aiming at 50% to get more resources is actually going to do 30%, but he wants to keep the same resources. Our role is to make sure that the one who is aiming for 10%, we give him the resources when he does, and our role is for the guy who is aiming for 50% is to reduce his. So this is the role of the board, is to monitor, because there are different profiles, different characters, different sense of risk that you will have. It's our role to assess it and to our role to take the right measures. Clear? Yes. 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 To do this, yes. 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 What is your question? Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. These templates are samples of templates. Normally, these templates give you foundations for good governance. These templates could be used by management or could be used by boards. It could be one or it could be the two, depending on the templates. Normally, most of these templates, the board sets the templates. The management team says these are the numbers that we're going to deliver on it based on the templates that you have sent. The board approves it, the board reviews it. This is the way it works. The templates format, this is what I call the framework, is set normally by the board. This is what I call the strategic direction. This is what we want to do. Filling the templates is the executive team. We might discuss it and we might fine tune it. Maybe you need to grow a bit more, but this is the executive team, the management team that fills it. The board approves it, the board reviews it, the board takes action in case there is not proper. So this is the difference between the executive, i.e. the management, and the board. The board sets the direction, i.e. this is the framework, these are the templates. The executive team is there to say what they're going to achieve, and then this is approved by the board that monitors it. Is this clear or still not clear? Absolutely. It's a very good point, and we had this point discussed today. Most of the board today are people with good-hearted who wanted to, I'm talking NGOs, so good heart, it's not enough. If you don't have business-minded people in your board, as an NGO, humanitarian NGO, your likelihood of succeeding is very, very low. Why? Because there is no money going to come to you because of your good heart. We want to give you money because there is a clear indication that you could put projects that has impact but has sustainability. And without good businessmen, you will not get sustainability. So this is quite important. So it means that your board composition needs to change. You need to look at your board and you need to see what is the key gaps that you have and what are the right skill set that you need to address the gap, and you will see a lot of it. And today I was talking to a priest. So this was a head priest that we had, and he said, Constantin, you're a business-minded, but I realized that without business minds, I will never be able to take my NGO into an organization that is able to identify projects that are going to be viable with time. So good soul and beautiful soul are important. Good heart are very important, but if you don't have the ability to execute on this plan, ma'amil nashi. So in your board, find people who has the ability to be able to understand, to use, and to guide the executive team to do the right things. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Mashboot, you're absolutely right. So you have to do, you're absolutely right, because they need to execute. The question is not only these business-minded people should be on the board, they should also be in the organization structure of the NGO. That is, so the NGOs need to have people that are coming in with a certain track record from the business world. I have to move because we have a lot to cover. We could park it. Next slide. So this I'm not going to go. This is the risk management framework. And this is, again, it's a lot of details, but this is, next slide, Lama. Okay, this I want to share time. We have done the balance scorecard, but we've taken it a step more. So if, for instance, it was Sumaya, and Sumaya is the major shareholder of Taka, but we agreed with Sumaya there are a few ones. Let's say that this is Sumaya. We told Sumaya what is important for us is your economic profit. What is important for us is how much net operating cash you're going to have at the end of the year. What's important for us is the employee satisfaction rate. And your net promoter score is a combination of customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, and customer retention that you have. So this is called net promoter score. And then we have 80% of your bonus, Sumaya, is going to be based on this. 20% is going to be based on some personal project that we will give you to do it. So what we do here, we set the bonus spot, we set the key metrics. This is the target, this is the she performs. At the end of the year, we look at all these different performances versus the target. Did she achieve? She did not achieve 100%, 90%, to 200%. Then we define what the bonus scheme is. What we have done, we have told her what is important for us. We have told her what is the weight that we as a board are giving her. The only thing that is missing here, we don't know how much is the annual bonus if she does it at 100%. Typically for a CEO, it's got about 6 months. 6 months of salary for a CEO is typically a bonus if the CEO delivers 100% of this. He might deliver more than 100%. So this is the way where you take the balance scorecard that provide, what does it provide? Transparency. Everybody knows what is going to be those key performance indicators. Everybody knows what else. So the leadership would know. The shareholders would know. The family members would know. The investors would know that these are. It also provides what? Beside transparency, what does it provide? Transparency is clarity. What? That it provides that. It focuses. It focuses. We have a few elements that are going to be. It provides another thing. What responsibility? I'll call it accountability. So if after 3 quarters Nadine failed to deliver on revenue, yeah, I mean Nadine, bisharafik. Either you have set up a target that is completely unrealistic, but I don't want you to come every quarter and give me the same sort of excuses. So we have agreed. It was your numbers. Your numbers you presented. You have this thing. We agree. So we need to take correct. And maybe she's not. She's maybe the right shareholder, but she might not be the right CEO for the organization. We need to find somebody else to do it. So this is the role of the board. She's the major shareholder. She's not, but she's one of the major shareholders, but she might not be the best CEO for the organization. How do we measure it? How do we track it? If you don't have a balanced scorecard, it's a gut feel. Here is no gut feel. Here we have taken it. We have provided transparency. We have provided clear accountability. And we have aligned all the stakeholders around this is what matters in one slide. one slide, we have everything from your financial budget to your business plan into one slide with these measures. This is a real life case studies with Niaho and one of the best companies, and I ended up investing in this company. So they also have with it a foundation, so they prevent with the profit, like Baitcans, they use the profit in order to be able to fund other, positions that you've seen. Any questions on Niaho? So we covered board assessments with biomass. We covered balanced scorecard, which is basically performance management with Niaho. Tfaddali.
I just want to clear up something.
Yes.
Is that, companies that you like or whatever, you have become an investor in.
Yes.
You sit on the board.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean because you're an investor, you should be a board member. Just for that to be very, because there is a conflict of interest, and usually the founders and entrepreneurs are the ones that fall victim to this when it comes when you have an investor on
Okay.
the board.
She's bringing a good point. Typically, when Rassan comes, or let's say Gabi comes, say Constantin, I want to invest. Taka, I love what Sumaya is presenting. She needs about 500K. I'm willing to put 300K. I'm going to get 15%. Automatically, in his mind, he has a board seat. What I would say, this is subject to negotiation. Remember, who do we have? Who do we give the board seat to? She has a number of people that she has problems. I want to know what are the key problems she has, and we want to make sure that the people on the board are the people that are best equipped to help her solve her problem, not necessarily to be the funding gap. So this discussion is an important discussion. So as an advisor to your board, not a board member, I would say your priority, list me your key burning platform that you have, that today with your team, you're not in a position to control completely, and let's find together who are the best people to accommodate it. It could... Yes.
If you're an investor today, does not mean that you are a board member automatically.
This is what I was referring. It was clear from my response. Her point is, if you're an investor, you're not automatically a board member. And my response is, of course, your board member needs to be the person best equipped to be able to help her resolve the problem. Now, if Gabi comes and says, I'm giving 40%, I'm taking 40%, no matter how much you would discuss at a 40% share, you can make sure that he's going to get a board seat. Or if it's not him, it's somebody, because then he said, I'm putting a substantial part of my shares, so this becomes a decision that needs to be made. But at 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, her point is very clear. Okay, clear? We can move? Yes. Yes. Okay, so the fees. The fees is a good one. I could ask I don't know if they're going to answer. I know what are the fees I'm getting paid. For some of the board seats where I sit, I get paid zero. I get paid zero because I believe in this organization and I want to continue and I want to make sure this organization is successful. It could be NGOs or it could be for-profit. Especially NGOs, zero that you have. In for-profit that do not have the cash, it could be also zero because we want them to grow. If we are investing a substantial amount of time in this NGO, we negotiate what we call sweat equity. We know that we're going to be working with you at least 10 days a year. Today, our daily rate is, I use any figure, $1,000 a day. This is $10,000. Your company is worth $1 million. I would like to have 1% share in your company. So this becomes a sweat equity compensation for the work that you do. It's not cash, it becomes sweat equity. We don't want to do too many of these things because you end up with a lot of small investors. So this is the second way. The third way is that you pay. And you have fees that could be as low as, on a daily basis, I don't know, $500. It could be as high as $5,000. I'm talking Lebanon now. It could be much higher in other countries, depending on the size of the company, depending on the group. If I ask, do you pay board seats or not? She doesn't. Nadine, do you pay board seats? None. On the case of the Bani, they pay board seats. So this is ABC pays board seats. So depending on the companies that you do. Now, at one point in time, when Sumaya and Nadine are going to be profitable and growing, and they realize that the board is adding value, they need to take a decision, how do we compensate the board? Either through sweat equity, or we compensate them through some sort of what we call a retainer fee or a sitting fee in a board. But normally, for most of the NGOs, zero. For the startups, zero. We might get some sweat equity, and we might, as you develop it, it depends on the number of days. Rassan.
On the non-profit I sit on as a board member, we have to pay. And the reason is that many donors want to make sure that there is 100% board participation in the fundraising.
Okay, it's a good one, because if I look at I have two sons, I always repeat this thing. I have two sons and I say I sit on the board and I end up investing in these companies. And then the sons, one is with JP Morgan, he said, Dad, it's not an investment. Call it a donation right away, because you will not get your money. So better, I don't want you to see you disappointed. So this is a donation. So what you're doing is not only you're donating the money, but you're also donating your time. So my only comment to you is make sure that whoever you're donating the money and you're donating the time, you feel that they're generating the impact that makes you comfortable in case you're not getting your money back, in case so it is, at the end of the day, you need to look at it. It's really, you need to look at it as an extension of a donation program that you have. So it goes back to Hassan's point. Yes? Yes. Okay. It's a very good point. So if you ask the question to the people, Sumaya, ESG, do you track it?
We're one of the companies that have worked a lot on our ESG goals, especially on our environmental impact. So we integrated a carbon footprint model 5 years ago. So we have a CO2 coefficient to every snack produced, and we offset and we decrease. So that's one of the biggest KPIs. We're a zero waste facility, so there's no waste that leaves our bakery. We track our weight, organic. We also compost with Compost Baladi in-house. So we have paper, compost, and plastic. We also upcycle our plastic and we count it. But not only that, is that on the employee front, we do full-on capacity for every employee in-house, and it's tracked within our FSSC and our ISO. This is just environmental. Social is a whole other terrain. But at Taka Snacks, this is one of the things that we've focused on for the last 7 years. But it has not reached my board level. Just be clear about that.
This is now, in the case of Nadine, or in case of others, the NGOs, you better report your impact. You better report your impact. The impact becomes much more important than any of the financial report. So I need to understand what is the impact that you are generating. Because if you live on primarily donations, these impact figures not only needs to be reported, you need to be certified to make sure that the way you're reporting them is correct. This is what yesterday was Yasser Akawi. So he's the one that does this ESG certification, so he gives the stamps. So you need to make sure that your impact report is important, because your financial performance is not that relevant, but your impact reporting is going to be critical. If you ask Zena, who is here from Al Majmoua, she will tell you exactly how many families received microloans, what did they do in terms of sustainability, all this, so all of the impact measurement is as important as the financial returns, although the defaults of the loan is important, although the gross margins, the profit margin is important, but the impact becomes as important, in some cases more important. So ESG impact, as you move to impact investors, become important. In the case, we have, okay, so ESG impact is an integral, so where do you have it? You have it in your balance scorecard. So in your balance scorecard, what you will say is you'll have a list, either in terms of customer or in terms of the productivity. You will list all those ESG impact, or you have a own column, yes? Yes. Yeah, no, look, at the end, it depends on the investment strategy that you have. So some investors are when I convinced Gabi and Hassan to join me and finance Beit al Baraka, I said, look, it's a 6% interest. In the case, one of them, I wanted to say, Constantin, I don't need 6%, put it at 0%. So I said, no, it's important to put at 6%. We want them to be accountable for this. But in this case, they're not looking for return. So they're putting the money because what they believe of the impact that this is going to generate on the artisans or on the farmers that are providing the moune or on the people that are benefiting from the profit. So what, in their mind, what the message is sending me is, Constantin, we don't care so much about the return. We want in because we believe that she has done a great job. She has a great team. She has delivered. She has a model that holds the ground. and we trust that you've done the due diligence to make sure that this is going in the right direction. So we go, and whether the return is 0 or is 6%, it doesn't make a difference. So more impact investment will come in the board, the more they will say profitability. It's important for you, not so much for them. It's important for you to attract more investors to come in to show that you can at least start being cash flow positive, you know, and being able to, if not now, next year or the following year. So impact investments is the name of the game and will continue to be the name of the game in the years to come. Okay, so what the point is making, so what you need to do is, it's very important, because impact, and Nadine is very quiet, she's here, but you know, at one point in time she will tell and you'll say, haba'na. Yani we have too much documentation and forms to fill and do to this is a full-time job. Constantin, to get your ESG, yani I have to employ 3 people full-time to do the measurement, the tracking, the reporting, and this. Yani khalas, I'm not anymore focusing on my business, I'm focusing on measuring the impact. So it's important to strike the right balance, you know, and it's important to choose. This is why grants can be a burden. And at one point in time, it could be a burden. And at that point we said, I don't want grants anymore. I don't want grants. I want to focus on real money, but then I will have the freedom to do what is the right thing for the organization and not what is the right thing for the people that are providing me the grants by filling documents and filling reports. Do you understand? Her point is a very valid point. And my answer to her point is, the faster you could get out of grants addiction into real business growth with real funding, the better off you're going to be. Faddali. Yes. 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 I fully agree. I fully agree, and this is why I'm telling you more and more. Grants are important, but what you do, what you're stating, because especially if you have different sources, and they do have different sources. I mean, maybe Nadine is much more focused because she has a business that has good cash flow, but others are champions. I have nothing against one of the case studies, Compass Bar. They're the champion. They have raised probably $500,000 in grants. They know how to apply. They know how to get the money. They know how to do it, and they know how to pitch, and they're great in getting the money. Then, khud ba'a. You have 5 or 6 donors. Each one wants to have the documentation in a certain way, reporting in a certain way, timing monthly, quarterly. It becomes a nightmare. And when you have several behind it. So it is good in some ways, but the faster you could really move to a real cash flow generating business, not so much relying on donations, you'll be better off. And the other thing is trying to align. So when you have donors coming in, align so that the expectations are similar, so that you don't find yourself in confusing or conflicting positions that need to be. We can spend a lot of time on it. The message behind is her message: be careful. Be careful, because this comes with a lot of admin work that needs to be done. We're going to break now. This is great. These are case studies, real life case studies. We're going to have Nadine. We're going to have Yusser, who is here. And we're going to have Fadi, who normally should be coming. Take the break. We have 10 minutes break, and then we come back and we have the round table. Thank you. All right, we're going to start. Please have a seat. We do the same format as yesterday. So we have 3 panelists on it. I'm going to let each panelist introduce. I had the chance to work with all 3 of them. Yusser is the founder and CEO of Wakilni. This is one. She is in the process. She has raised a number of funding rounds. She's in the process of closing her Series A funding rounds to fund primarily her expansion into the region. She will introduce herself. Nadine was we got to know Nadine through part of a program on, we call it Water Energy for Food, for the past 4 years that we have been working together. One also of the key stars in the agri-tech company. She will explain what she does. The impact is in thousands of farmers and their families being connected. Fadi Debane, for once we have men as a minority in the panel compared to yesterday, because I was criticized so heavily, Constantin, how could you have a panel without any women? Bahdale, aib alik, aib. This is what I got yesterday. Fadi is the executive chairman of the Debane Sayali group. This is a diversified group, very strong family governance, very strong corporate governance. I had the pleasure of working with Fadi for the past more than 15 years because we were a member of the investment committee of Beritech Fund 1. Each one of them have a story in terms of governance in their own organization, being it they move from a startup to a scale-up to a mature organization, so you're going to have it across the board. So the way we'll do it, we'll get each one 2 minutes to present themselves, present their organization, and then we'll start the questions. I'll make sure that you have enough time for you to ask questions because I know that you're going to have a lot of questions. Thank you, all of you. I know you have a very busy load. Thank you for being here. Yusra, you want to start?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm Yusr. I founded Wakilni back in 2016. Today we define ourselves as we're building the technology platform that supports e-commerce. You can't hear me? Okay. صوتي أكتر. Okay, sorry. So we're building the technology platform that supports the e-commerce ecosystem in the region. Today we are around an organization of around 350 people. We operate across all of Lebanon, and we have recently, towards August last year, we've expanded into Jordan, our operations as well. As Constantin said, along the way, we've gotten the support of several angel investors. We have raised around 2.5 million in the past from angel investments. And today, this is the first time that we're actually moving towards raising money from institutional funding through VC money. And we are on a journey on governance, basically on becoming more and more institutionalized. We started from an operational level a few years back, and now we are on governance level going through that journey. Thank you.
So I'm Nadine Khouri, you know everything about me, right? So I'm the... Fadi. So I'm the COO of Quinta Group, formerly known as Robinson Agri. We are an agri provider solutions. It's a family business started by my father 50 years ago. He was the first one to introduce the greenhouse production in Lebanon. And in 2000, we took the leadership, my sister and I. We love what we do. We are passionate about what we do. We have a goal to transform the agriculture sector in Lebanon, to empower the farmers, as Constantin was mentioning, because when you empower the farmers, you empower the community. And we want also to turn the investors and the entrepreneurs into agripreneurs. So this is our main logo, motto. On a personal level, I'm an agriculture engineer. I like a lot my personal experience shaped my personality. Mainly, I'm coming from a village called Pshale. It is where we have the oldest olive tree. So this is where my journey started in nature and in agriculture. Also, I like always to say that Scout taught me a lot. And for everyone who has kids here, please, this institution or this school is very important, especially now with all the AI. And Hadi mentioned yesterday AUB, and AUB also was the cerise at the gâteau. I'm living in June, and coming at AUB, different culture, different perspective, different people, different profiles, it shaped me. So this is it.
Good evening. Thank you for listening to us. Fadi Debane. I left Lebanon in 76 and lived 18 years in the US, studied, worked there. Always wanted to come back and came back in 1994, so 30 years ago. Joined the group. We are a diversified group, originally in agriculture. We started in 1952, so it's been a while, over 70 years. And we migrated from agriculture into other businesses. You know some of them, Exotica, into contracting, wine, Enotica, Exir, Telecom, Pesco Telecom, Wise. So we have a diversified group in Lebanon and outside. Other things that are not here in Lebanon that also are very interesting activities. So we're a family of 7. We have basically 5 brothers and 2 sisters. My father decided that the sisters should not be in the business, gave them land instead, and said the business stays in the boys. So here it is. So we have 5 brothers, and then eventually we got my brother-in-law involved with us. We liked him, so he was working in a Fortune 500 company in charge of the Middle East, and we enticed him to come and join us. And he's the one who, in many ways, helped us do a journey of governance. He's the first one years ago. He joined us 35, 40 years ago. He's the first one who started talking about governance and how things should be structured, etc. So we're talking about, obviously, governance today. So the move to governance, obviously, took a long time. And the interesting thing about our business is it's a family business, and it's a complex business with multiple companies, multiple generations. So it's a bit difficult to manage. So that's why it might be interesting to share some of the experiences we have.
Okay, I'm going to ask questions to all 3 of you. So what you do is maybe answer with 1 point or 2 points so as to allow the other. So I will start this way and then I will do the other way so that to get the question will be, here in this audience, you have a combination of for-profits and non-profits that you have, and you have a combination of scale-ups and mature organizations that are present. So it's a very diversified pool. The question that comes is, we understand why governance is important. Give us hints of how we should go about putting it as simple as possible in order to start having this foundation and then growing. So what are the advices that you have to them in setting up, in your case, for instance, in your specific case, what are these foundation blocks, not to make it too complicated, given the fact that they are either small or they are maybe not necessarily for-profit but non-profit. So what are the steps to follow in order to start building this governance foundation in your organization based on what you've done with Wakili?
Okay, so maybe I'm the least experienced in this, so that I'm the most. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk from the perspective of I'm just starting this journey basically, and among the one of the main things that was is very helpful at this stage for us is that we've already have the right people around us. So we have already a very strong internally management team that already works very well together. We do proper decision making that is not one channel only. And then the shareholders that came along the way have also been from the start very much aligned with our values. So when we're now moving towards establishing properly a proper board with proper governance, proper structure for decision making, it's not a difficult process because it's a bit natural, because already we have a lot of alignment on values, on vision, on strategy. So even though it was not previously, so we have a very complex cap table because we needed money along the way several times, and I was not very experienced in fundraising. I got on board around 13 shareholders, and along the way we've successfully always been communicating with them on a monthly basis all our updates. And I knew from the beginning, out of these 13, which 4 are the most. They have the most time for us, they're the most experienced, they're the most, they want to be involved basically. And I would involve them unofficially on a lot of the decisions that I feel it's important for them to know. So for example, if I want to expand my office and I want to move into a new space, so I have to put a budget. And all of this was not pre-structured, and it was very, and it was tricky basically. It was quite tricky to do this and not cause any ripples or any issues. And when I come at the end of the year, show the budget, why did you do this, why did you not do this? So it was, I had to use a lot of reasoning and a lot of logic. This topic I have to get everyone's approval on, this topic not. And because when they came on board, there was alignment on values and on strategy. It was successful until today, but this cannot move forward. This cannot continue, basically. And now we're in the process of establishing a formal board, and it is actually required of us as part of the round and from the institutional fund, institutional investor that is coming on board today. And this requires a very also big shift from my end on how I perceive things and on how much flexibility I have and how much freedom I have in taking decisions. So choose the right people from the start that have alignment on values. And one thing my lawyer once told me very, very, very early on, and it has stuck with me so much, is that the minute you feel that the other entity that is coming on board, you have to detail the contract and look into every single detail on it so that you feel safe, it means they're not the right person. You would want the person to, like, you would want to feel that the contract is secondary and you can just really move forward with the relationship. And this has been very helpful for me in selecting the right people to come on board.
So for us, it's a different journey. My father had a partner and they split in 2000. We learned a lot from this experience because there was no succession plan, there was no exact job responsibility, there was nothing. So since day one, Rula and I decided to have clear governance. And it went very good till when we started to grow and to grow more and more. We have a very good team, but we needed more support. And last year, and thank you, Constantin, when we listened to this workshop and with V4F, we understood the importance of having an advisory board. And we appointed an advisory board, and they are 5 people coming from different fields, having everyone his know-how, his expertise, and they are supporting us in our transformation journey. What we love about it is they are sitting, and we have 4 meetings per year, and every time they are sitting with one of our line manager, because our company is divided into different line of products, and every product has its own line manager. You didn't meet my sister, but my sister is obsessed with numbers. So she analyzes numbers. They are obliged to analyze numbers. They are obliged to crash numbers. My middle name is Nadine, X dollars or euro, Khouri. So, and this is the culture of numbers coming from her. And the board is helping us to put really the strategy to support the line managers and to support us in this. And of course, to support, to give us for the mitigation risk, to mitigate the risk, because now, yesterday also someone was mentioning already living in Lebanon is very risky. So imagine all the risks we have. And we have a lot of external risks coming. So it's not only that we have to know, you mentioned yesterday, we have to know the market competition. We have to know globally what is happening. And the board also is supporting us in this. With the economic uncertainty, with the climate change, it is affecting us a lot as an industry. With the consumer trends, also it's shifting very quickly with the AI, with everything. So because we are inside in the operation, we needed a broader view, and they are supporting us in everything. So thank you one more time. And for the succession plan, I have 2 kids. My sister has 2 kids, and my other sister, which is a silent partner, also has 2 kids. And I have a brother which is not married. And my father, when he delegated to his daughter, it was at the first time with the farmers, they didn't believe that a woman can lead an agriculture company. So we are in a man's world, yani. But thanks God, everything went good. And now with our children, we are trying to have this succession plan, and we are doing twice per year a retreat day. So to say our values, our missions, our vision, they have to know the numbers also and to know what we are doing. So I don't know if you have any other question.
So give us the answer. And also one of the questions that came up is how are you preparing and helping the third generation either take
Okay.
over or find their own ways while building the governance foundation and keeping family unity. So how do you balance between the two?
Difficultly. I will try to answer the first part, which is interesting, in the sense that how do you start governance? And you know, if you're a startup, you do everything. You have very few people, and the last thing on your mind is how do I do governance? You need to survive. So I like to give this example about what governance is. Let's say football. We all know how to play football. We've seen it. And when you're a 10-year-old kid, you know, you go put two stones on the ground, and you get a ball, and you play football with your friends. You don't have an empire. You don't have anything. If you argue, you fight with each other or whatever, and then eventually you just play. And then take this to another extreme. You know, Mundial. At the Mundial, you have two teams with empires everywhere. You have one following them everywhere. You have one for linesmen. You have a video camera recording everything. If there's a doubt, you go replay. There's absolute scrutiny on everything. So that's the ultimate governance. But at the same time, when you play football with your friends, you have some sort of governance which is practical. You know, okay, you made a mistake, you did a foul, you pushed me here. So you have to take this the same way in everyday life. If you're a startup, you can't be doing the ultimate governance, but you have to have some governance. So as you grow, you need to be aware that basically governance is looking at the risks you have and finding a way to mitigate them. So depending on the business you're in, you're going to have to look at it. The problem and the challenge in a startup is typically you're alone, or you have a partner, or maybe you're 2-3 people, and you're together, so you don't have any outside opinion. And my recommendation is to basically get outside advice through, before you go to a board, maybe an advisory people who are mentors, who are advisors, who have experience, who guide you what to do, what not to do, and then you build from there. But you can't go to an extreme. You have to start someplace, and you can only start by having some people who are outsiders highlight areas that you need to look at. That's what I would say is the best way, because when you're in, you don't see anymore. You're too busy running, doing, you're a startup, you're doing everything. So you need somebody to tell you, hey, but okay, let me tell you, you should look at this is a risky area, look at that. So that would be my recommendation. Get some outside advice from people around you with experience. As for us, again, it's a complicated, we have a complicated legal structure, we have a complicated, but what we did, we tried to do a constitution some 15 years ago, and it took a lot of work to do that, a lot of stories around how we built the constitution, but it's here. And in the constitution, we have some guidelines about how to basically behave as a family vis-a-vis the business. So we have points that we state as being things how the family should behave, etc. We don't always behave that way, but we aim to. And we try to find ways in which we minimize the problems we have in the family. We're a big family. We have 50 people between the children, the second gen, the third gen, the spouses, etc. So it's a lot of people out there. And so you need to make sure you find a way to organize it and at the same time keep people engaged. And that's the difficult part. So we have set a structure at the origin of some 15 years ago, and we've been changing it. And that's something that most people think you write a constitution and that's it. It's like it's written. No, constitution is something that has to be adapted to your needs. So you say if it doesn't work, you go back, you work at it, you change it, you adapt. So that's how you have to find a way to make sure the next gen is involved with that. Because the only reason why you're doing it is for them. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be passing this to the next generation. So it's important that they be engaged with us in defining what structure, what guidance, what guidelines we set. Now, we made a lot of mistakes between shifting from generation to generation. I would say the most blatant of them is that we put a daughter with her father or a son with his father. And that's like something that if anyone here remembers one thing today, just if you have a business, don't get your son or your daughter to work and report directly to you. It's a recipe for not ideal situation. Husband and wife is different. I don't know, we haven't had it, but I'm telling you, because as a father with his daughter or his son, you bring a lot with you to work. And it's an extra burden, and it's not the healthiest one. So, so we made those mistakes. We put, yeah, we learned from them. But at the same time, it was painful because the generation 3, I'm generation 2, the generation 3, we really had a lot of them go in and go out of the group because of frictions with their parents, etc., and difficulties. And even the ones who stayed and worked with their father had, you know, a tough ride. It wasn't an easy ride. So, so this one thing we did, which I would really avoid at all costs, not have a child report to his parent. It's. I know you have. It's something. It's just not ideally somebody else, a third party, is better. So there's a lot to say, but I don't want to just. So this is a bit of the experience.
Yeah, I want to leave time for questions, but I'm interested in because all of them are in the process of setting it up. All of them, and they say, Constantin, you know, we understand that governance is not only about the board, it's about having the right team. It's about ensuring that we have clarity in terms of where we're heading, in terms of having the right business controls, financial controls. If there is one advice that you have, I mean, Fadi gave an advice, but I'm asking for other advice to all of those entities who are keen to set it up and they're a bit hesitating. Fadi came and said, get help. So one is get some people who have done it to do it. Make sure that you maybe have the right people. So what will be the tips based on what you have gone through? So in your case, for instance, now you had 13 investors, business angels. You're shifting to maybe 1 or 2 financial investors. So these are venture capitalists on it. What do you think will be the tip or the advice you say shifting from this large cap table to a concentrated cap table? What are the 1 or 2 things that you want them to keep in mind in terms of lessons from the learnings that you have?
So it's also get help as well.
Get help.
And identify the people that actually have time. So among all the shareholders that we have, we really want the ones that have time for us, not just because they were used to being part of the decision making before, but now moving forward, they really have to have added value basically, because there are only a few seats. So we're shifting to a board of 5 upon your recommendation, plus a couple of advisors. And every round that will be coming in are gonna demand board seats. So we're also trying to explain. So maybe the advice would also be, for us, the current shareholders are also undergoing a journey of transformation in terms of how they view the company and their role in the company. So we're trying to explain to them what this changing role is for them as well. So if they were previously part of the decision making, today they will be part of less of the decision making, and then they might be on the board for a certain period of time. But then when we have new investors coming in and they're going to demand also board seats, it might be rotational. So it's not a for life position basically. So this, for us, this new understanding, we're sharing it as well with the shareholders, and this might be the advice, is that whatever we're learning, we're very openly communicating it as well with the shareholders, with the help. So for me, it was very helpful that I also have a very strong legal advisor that is experienced in supporting startups undergoing this journey, because she's helping me answer all the questions to the board members. Because I don't know all of the all of the answers, and I not only am I learning from her, but she helps in the conversation, so I learn along the way from her answers to them as well.
So exactly, I will second you, but also always believe what you are doing, have perseverance, surround yourself with very good people. They can support you a lot. Do a lot of training, of learning, so we can be able always to grow ourselves. And mainly, so it's a lot of tips, but it's also to have an impact. I like also always to, when you are doing, most of you are NGOs, but even if you are a private organization, do an impact, because we have something to build for Lebanon. We have to change the culture of Lebanon, and this is part of our responsibility. So this is it.
My tip is simple. Governance is a culture. So basically, if you want governance, it's not about having governance between those advisors and you, but it's about sharing this throughout the organization, no matter how small or big it is. So everybody abides by this culture of governance, that governance is good for everyone. Companies that have good governance grow better, have lower risk, and make better results. And you know, once you have that understanding with somebody who's helping you to understand what you have to do, make sure your whole team is really on board for the governance, right?
Yes, you are totally true, and it's difficult because sometimes the team is a little bit resistant, because you have a lot to do, you have a lot to prepare, and they are not used to this. So it's totally true. So it takes time. So don't think that it is direct. No, it needs some time. It's ongoing time, ما فيها ما بتوقف. So it's always, there is so, yes, it's never ending.
Yeah, I'm going to be maybe specific. We're going to get the questions to all of you. Sumaya is here. She's not happy with her board, and she wants to make sure that she has an effective board. I'm speaking, so she's saying, Constantin, how do I assess the board, and what is the process for me to make sure that I have the board contributing as much as they should be contributing. So it's about how do you go about the board assessment. I'm going to go to you, Fadi, because you're the one who has the most experience on it. What is your favorite way of operating, and how do you go about making decisions to take this board and make it more efficient?
So board assessment is important, and same way as you know, you basically have to assess anybody in the organization. Must be some accountability. Yes, of course, we did that last year. So basically, how do you assess a board? So we have basically a grid of elements that we have to address as a board. It's probably 2.5 pages long. It's by categories. What do we have to do? One is the board the right composition? Do we have the right people on the board? Do we have everybody thinks the same way? It's not a good board. Do we have diverse experiences? Is everybody participating? So that's an important element, the structure and the participation and the board. We have to assess that. So what we do is, I will go over the elements, but we do a self-assessment. Basically, we either can do each one on his own, and then we sit down and we look, do we have the same grades? Do we see it the same way? And if we have a different assessment on a one item, we discuss why. Or another option is to sit down and say, debate and say, well, we are on a 3 on a scale of 5, we are 4, and then we go down that and we... So the one section is the structure of the board, another section is strategy. Are we dealing with strategy properly? Are we talking about strategy or no? How are we defining strategy? Are we making sure the management is actually executing the strategy? Budgets and the performance of the management? Are we tracking the performance of the company? Is it matching the proper targets that we set? Is the budget set according to proper guidelines, and we have information on competitors? So we have also other things like HR. Are we looking at high potential in the company? So there are a lot of sections that we will address. And obviously one of them is setting the compensation for the management, reviewing the management performance, the CEO in particular. Do we have the right CEO? Should we get rid of him if he's not performing? Should we give him targets that are clear, etc.? So these are all elements that we will evaluate. And then one of the things we should do also is evaluate the chairman of that board. The board itself should evaluate the chairman and say, you're doing a job, you're not doing a job. You did well here or not well here. Last year they told me I was too nice. That's what the comment was. So it's okay, I'm going to be less nice. But it's true, right? So that's that's the process. I mean, but if it's somebody who is taking a managerial position, senior position, we have a panel of 3 people who are non-family, who will vet somebody before they apply for a position. So they will meet with that person and say, okay, if this person applies for that place, they are adequately suited to fill that position. Because what happens? If my daughter applies for a position in the group, who's going to tell her no? The HR is going to tell me, you know what, I preferred somebody else and not your daughter. I mean, it's going to be a very hard thing for them to do. So what we did is we set up this committee of 3 people who are 1 businessman and 2 HR people, senior HR people one was a group HR from a very large group in the Middle East. So 2 people who are retired, 1 who is a businessman, very well known to us. So these people assess okay, if your daughter applies for this position, if she takes it, she can do the job before she applies. So that's for senior positions. As far as So we have a venture capital fund, if you want. But we set it up, but till now, nobody has tapped on it. We have once 1 person who tapped, but it was rejected. But the concept is basically the following. If you want to come up with an idea, make a business plan, and we'll help you. If you don't know how, we'll help you do your business plan. We won't do it for you. So we have a central team of finance, so we can guide somebody on how to do a business plan. And we will expect you to have a minimum positive return. So we won't be as tough as if it was a business that the group would invest in. We'd be lenient. We consider this as a learning experience. But come up with an IRR which is positive, whatever it is, and we'll look at it, as long as we're convinced that the business has a chance of success. And then if you decide to go with it, we have a few criteria. 1, you will be majority. We will have a majority. We will have a minority. And if you don't have the money for it, we'll lend it to you. But you are the one who's driving it. You have to be full-time employed. You're the driver. You're not investing in a restaurant for somebody and you put money. You have to be the driver behind this business. And we have from day 1 to agree. Of course, there's some key points that we will restrict, like you can't go buy a Maserati tomorrow with the funds, etc. So we have some key points that we will keep in our hands as a board, but we will give you a lot of leeway to run your show. And we'll have one last point, depending on the business, within a certain period of time. Let's say if it's an industry, it might be 5 years. If it's a restaurant, it might be 2 years. If it's whatever, we'll determine in the business plan when the business will be basically stable. And at that time, we will have an option. You will have an option to buy us back at a predetermined formula. And if you don't buy us back, we buy you back. So this becomes a business of the group, and then you make money out of it. You buy and you do something else. But either you buy us out and we'll be very happy, we gave you support to be able to have your own business, or if you don't want to do that, then we buy it and it becomes 100% a business of the group. Maybe we keep you as a manager or not, but it's our privilege, but it becomes a new activity in the group. And for the 3 first years of the life of the business, we give you free financial analysis help. Our financial team is at your disposal. Our business process team is at your disposal to do standard procedures. Our audit team is at your disposal to help you do proper governance and things from the start. So all of this free of charge for you if you are part of this.
We want to give time for the audience to ask questions. We will break in about 10 minutes. So what are the questions? List your questions. I will put it in the microphone to make sure that... So what are questions you have to the panelists? Go ahead. I didn't understand the question. Yes. Fadi, you got the question? I still didn't get the question. But look, joint ventures, you have a 50, for instance, some of those companies, I know in the case of Sayyid Debani, some of those are joint ventures where you have different partners. Those companies would have a board and report to a board of it. So being it fully owned subsidiary or being it a joint venture, the governance structure will be very similar in terms of the board reporting. The CEO would report to a board, correct me if I'm correct, Fadi. So this is, I'm trying to answer the question. Any other questions? Yes. 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 Okay. So the question is, how do you set up your key performance indicators for yourself as the CEO or as the who sets it up, who approved it, who reviews it?
So on our end, we set it up on a management level, on a leadership level. So it was myself, it was the chief strategy officer, our COO. So we've put these and we shared these with our shareholders for their approval and their comments. So they have come back to us on a couple of KPIs, for example, they would challenge us on a few of those, and then we do the reporting on monthly basis accordingly. And on an annual basis, we review if there are any changes on those as well.
It's more difficult because we are two leading the company, so Rula and myself. We are assessing each other. So, and we didn't yet present it to the board, so it's mainly us. But we communicate a lot, and this is it.
For me, it's the board. I mean, the board sets it. I mean, it's basically the board that selects the CEO and supervises the CEO and determines how to compensate the CEO, and all of that is the board's job. Well, it's a tricky thing because I wear too many hats now. That's my problem. But I am acting CEO in one of the main activities of the group. But again, it's an interim responsibility that hopefully we'll find somebody to run that as a full-time CEO. But we have a vacancy, so I'm filling that gap. But I'm basically an executive chairman at the level of the group. So you can say basically I'm acting as a CEO for the group with companies operating underneath and CEOs that are operating activities. So it's more of a group CEO, if you want, than it is in a... Yes, and every activity you have a CEO, yes.
So we had shareholders, and from those shareholders, there were 4 that were very active with us. So they acted mainly as an unofficial board, but at the same time, and along the way, we got to meet literally people like Constantin, and those acted as, also for us, it was unofficial, but I would go back to them at many points when I needed advice and actually how to present different issues or different strategic issues to the unofficial board that we had. This was how we approached it. Yes, an unofficial one, yeah.
Maybe to continue with the two, in the case, it's also an advisory board in the case of Robinson Agri. In the case of the bank, it's a formal board. So what you do, it's a formal board that you have. You might have advisors that come in and guide on certain specific topics, but you have a formal board with formal directors, and you might have in some cases, you know, a committee. Could be a risk or audit committee that comes in. So you have different level, and this is good because you could see if you want the transition from a scale up to an established to a mature organization that have in terms of governance. Yes? Maybe let me rephrase the question. It goes to you, Fadi. In this case, who nominates the board? Who nominates the chairman of the board? No? Okay, so that's good. So what is your question?
You have a lot of questions in the same question, but I will try to answer some things. When you're running a board, you have interaction obviously with people, and so what I mentioned is you need to have a board that's active where everybody is taking an active role in it. So when you do the assessment, you're assessing the performance of everyone, and if the board's grade is bad, then you know, the board itself should say, you know what, I failed. We should tell the people who appointed us, you know, we failed you. If you want us out, we're out. If you're somebody who's consequential with yourself, or the people who you report this to, because at the end of the day, this assessment should go to the people who appointed you. Well, the shareholders, or depending on the structure, yes, shareholders, but depending on the structure, it could be another holding above or whatever. So, but whoever put you there, you report to them, and they say, oh, you really failed, maybe I give you one more chance, or some people should be changed. At the end of the day, the shareholders are the ones who decide when you go and when you stay. So you might not like it, but if you're a board member, the shareholders can at any time tell you, you know what, sorry, you have a 3-year mandate, but after a year we don't like you, we think you should take the door and we have somebody else. But that's what we do. But if, but
we are a school, and the school does not belong to anyone. It does not belong to a clergy or WAF or whatever it is. So we have, as a board, the problem of succession. If we ever sell the school, who does take the profit? We don't know who it is. It's a very complex issue. So the issue for us is always to maintain a succession for the board. And that's why we put in place term limits for board members. It's a very tricky question. The board technically owns the school, but the ownership of the school is a big question mark, because you have a lot of tax code behind it. So if we sell the school, what happens with the school, with the profit of the school? It depends on the state of Texas. It depends on the US federal government. It's a very tricky question, the succession of the board in cases where you don't have shareholders.
Look, I know you have a lot of other questions. Unfortunately, we'll have to close because some of the guests have other appointments to do. I want you all to join me in thanking them for taking the time. They had busy schedule. Thank you for being here. Look, I have a small present. Nadine got her present. Fadi and Yusra didn't yet. We work and we hike and we do retreats with a number of board members. Yusra, there's a small dédicace with this book. Fadi, tu l'avais pas eu. Donc, je te remercie. Merci infiniment d'être venu. Thank you. Always a pleasure being with you. I'm spending the full day with him tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. So we have half an hour to continue. On est où maintenant? Tu veux prendre la relève? So this is quite important. You got a number of answers and feedback coming from the different. It was good to see a scale up, more mature. You're going to have an established organization. What was probably missing here, you're going to tell me, is we need to have an NGO being present on it. But trust me, it's the same sort of foundation that will apply across those. We could discuss it. Maybe I'm going to put, because I know a lot of emphasis has been spent on startup, on scale-ups, and on mature organization. And there have been a lot of money being poured in those. She's an example, here's an example, a number of you. What we're doing is we realize that the big demand today and the big need is from NGOs. And NGOs, unfortunately, are not as well equipped as what you have listened today and listened yesterday. And these NGOs do not have the means as much as they do, because they might have a skill set which is not completely adapted. So what we are doing is we are working with other entities similar to ours, where we're going to have a program where we're going to take about, this is why it's important for us to meet with a number of you, because a number of you are NGOs, in order to see, because you all have common challenges that you're facing. Financial sustainability, access to capital, your access to talents, the access to markets. So we want to do a program which is specifically done for NGOs, not only on governments, but on all the other topics, over a period of time, providing a combination of grants, capacity building, and at the same time coaching and mentoring help that you will have. So we are in tune. The work we do with Beit El Baraka, or the work we'll do with Arc-en-Ciel, or with Bidayati, or with Basma, are examples for us to realize how important, even more important it is for these NGOs than it is for for-profit organizations to succeed. Because they had a true humanitarian edge, and this, unfortunately, if they disappear, there's going to be a huge impact on the social situation into the country. So it's a major crisis, and it's a bomb in the making that could create. So this is one of the examples that we're doing, but trust me, at the end, the message behind is not only you need to have the heart and the spirit, but you need to have the structured Cartesian way that we had in those templates. Maybe a bit too Cartesian for you. We make it simple, but this is the way to be able, because there is not going to be further funding coming to NGOs unless you have clarity on what you want to do in terms of build-up. Go ahead. Yes, yes. Is a for-profit. They have one board. They have one board. One board to do it, so they do it. But I'm going to, don't take only this example. So Beit Kenz is the profit-generating arm, and the profits are supporting the other entities of Beit El Baraka. This is one model. Take the other model. Take Arc-en-Ciel. Arc-en-Ciel had different businesses. They have about 12 or 15 businesses. Where is Michelle? Michelle is managing one of these businesses that she has. So in Arc-en-Ciel, now one of the entities of Arc-en-Ciel, or two of the entities are, you know, Tarnaye, you know, Familiar, you had the medical waste division. These were entities that were very profitable, very fast growing, and funding some of the entities that might not be generating the profit and relying on it. So the message, these are separate entities. They're all under an NGO setup, but some of these entities are very profitable and the profit are used. So what is the message behind it? The message behind it is that if you want to continue as an NGO, it's no problem to do it, but make this NGO to have a portion of their revenue coming not only from the donations, but coming from your own revenue generating. In the case of Tanayel, it's the milk, it's the supermarkets, they have the park, they charge for the park. You know, in Michelle, in her case, it's she has the big showroom where she represents a number of the products of the Arc-en-Ciel that is here. It's in the Galaxy store, and so you have different entities. I mentioned the medical one. So no, ultimately the NGO is not to pay, they don't make a profit. There is no shareholders. The NGO may have a surplus or may have a deficit. And then they decide on this surplus what to do with it. So this surplus normally is going into funding other part of this NGO that is not generating a surplus but generating a deficit. So at the end of the day, you will have this. Now we are following the legislation, but this is taking time to set up the notion not only of the NGO, but the notion of the social enterprise. The social enterprise is an organization that can generate profit, but at the same time having an impact on and a big portion of their profit is going to, which is the case of today of Beit El Baraka or Arc-en-Ciel or Bidayati, it's the same. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that for those of you who are NGOs, we are interested in talking to you. We're interested in knowing what you have in terms of needs, and we want to work together the same way that over the past 20 years we have been working with corporate, we've been working with scale-ups, we've been working with startups. We need to spend much more time providing the same sort of support for NGOs. So I'm not leaving you out, but I want you to start understanding the language. It's like you're learning Chinese. And a lot of it, you say, Constantin, Bisharafak, you know, I don't have the time to do all this. We don't, and we've been very nice because she hasn't discussed it. She's the financial, we were supposed to hear her. So she's very happy that she is, say, Constantin, if I have a wish, she told me in the car, if you could do it, you know, you make my day. So I'm trying to, you know, you want to keep your people happy. So, go ahead. Yes. Okay, so each one of you, I'm sorry to interrupt, each one of you is going to have a story. Each one of you is going to have a story. The process that we will go through with you is the same process that we have gone through with Robinson Agri, with Wakilni, that we are going through now with Tsai Ali Dabani Group and with the companies that you've heard yesterday. The process is the same process. We will adapt it to your own needs. But at the end of the needs, we need to have a pillar that is a pillar that is representing the future sustainability of the organization. Our role is to help you identify this pillar. It could be, in the case of Bidayati, it's a community kitchen. This community kitchen was the pillar that we have to do on it. So what is this pillar? And this is part of the process that we're going through. Each one of you would have a different way and different connotation. Our role is to listen to you, to see where you are, to see what are the pain points that you have, and to see how we could do to help you go through it. I'm not going to, this is why this is to provide you the templates so that we start speaking the same language. After we have the case studies to show you how these templates are implemented. And the last one is what? Sit down with us. Go back. Lama is here. I'm here. I spend half of my time here, half of my time in Switzerland. She's here 100%. We talk to a number of you. We do it either on a one-to-one basis or we do it as part of programs. And we do both of this. And this is what we do for a living. And this is why we believe it's very important. And we now know that it's even more important for NGOs than it is for social enterprise because we spend our life working with these social enterprises on it. I'm going to stop at this point. Quelle heure il est? Okay. Do we have anything to cover? Okay. So we're going to let so you said Lama is going to cover an essential point. The essential point is how do you define, what is the process that you go through to define the entity or the project or the initiative that will end up being your growth opportunity for the future so that you could capitalize on it and get the right investment and the right support. Thank you.
Thank you. So, won't take much of your time. Just. Qu'est-ce que tu as fait?
This is how you test. Can she deliver without slides?
I can deliver without slides.
Okay, so the process is taking you through is what we define the growth opportunities. You list those opportunities, you map them, you prioritize them, and then you present them to your board to get the right funding.
So this is the matrix, we call it the ANSOF matrix that we use. So first of all, we list the growth opportunities. This applies to startups, it applies to NGOs, it applies to social enterprises and to larger corporates. And what we do is we say, what are the current products that you're offering within the current markets that you are active in, or the current customer segments that you are targeting, and how can you expand on it? And we call it market penetration. So from the existing product offering, you can how do you expand to gain more market share to reach a larger number of customers that you have? The second step is within the existing product or services that you offered, what market segments or what geographies you can expand to. So whatever model that you have today in Lebanon, how can you expand it to other regions, to other countries, or to other areas within Lebanon that you haven't targeted yet, or altogether to new customer segments. So for today, Taka is addressing this target customer. How can Taka move to specific children or to specific dietary specification and so on? So this we call market development. Then on the other side, we're talking about new products. So what are new services, new products that are fit within the strategy that we have, within the mission, the vision that we have, but that we can introduce to get another revenue stream within the company and expand the business and scale by introducing a new offering that we have. And the last one is diversification. So we come up with an idea of a product that we want to launch, not for the current existing customer base that we have or customer segments, not in the current geography that we have, but in a new one. And this would be a pilot, and then we can scale it further. Once we have this, so we list them, and you have each growth opportunity with a description of each. And then, so this is an example. This is a startup, and even at the level of the startup, although startups are only starting to have one product typically, we push them because we need a view over the 5 years, over the 5 coming years for the financial modeling to go to potential investors and tell them, this is the plan, this is where we're taking the startup. So we push them, okay, today you're focusing on online food delivery, but how can you grow further? From new markets, going from only food and pharma to pet food, to flowers, to coffee, but also how can you move by introducing new services like the QR code, like a dashboard, like an advertising component, and how can you take this and build on it externally within different geographies as well. And then once we have this list of growth opportunities, how do you map them and how do you screen them? So we put them, and typically these are the 5 dimensions that we look at. The first one being the funding required. So we established that we want to grow, we want to launch a new product for Taka. What is the funding required to launch this product? So how much money do you need to invest in order to develop, to do the research, to do the manufacturing, to do the distribution of this product? And this is a dollar amount here. Then what is the financial return that this product is expected to generate? An incremental revenue and incremental profits that would add to your business. The third one is how strategically fit this product is with what you're doing. So introducing another type of biscuits is strategically fit, going all the way to juices and something else might not be what the core activity of Taka is, and this is a question mark to be shared with the board and discussed with the board. The other one is ease of execution. So how easy is it to launch a new product versus to expand the business in another geography, so moving Taka to Saudi Arabia, for example. So this is a low, medium, high assessment, and the risks that they entail, and this goes back to the risk management framework. So once this growth opportunity is assessed, we will have a risk management framework applied to it. What are the risks? What are the mitigation actions for it? And we go forward. And lastly is the ESG impact that is generated from this growth opportunity. And based on these criteria, we make the decision. Is it a go? Is it a pilot and test, and then you can decide whether to take it forward? Is it a no-go at all, because it doesn't make sense either because the risks are too high or the financial return does not explain the required investment to be put in? And the last one is hold. So it's not the time for it. It's a good opportunity, but the market timing is not the right one for us to go forward. It depends, and there might be other criteria. So, for example, for NGO, you would put a higher weight on the ESG impact.
You could decide what is the, you decide what is the weighing factor. You decide, we propose some of these criteria. You might decide on others. On impact, you might decide to have 2 or 3 different measures on impact. So it's really your call to decide, the board call, what is the screen that you're going to use in order to prioritize. You cannot go on us. Your pool is limited. How do you go about screening them? This is important because at the end of the day, the quality of your execution depends on selecting very well these growth opportunities, because you won't have too many millions of dollars to invest or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So make sure that you're looking at the one that you could easily execute, that would have the greatest impact, ESG impact, that would help you the most in terms of financial sustainability, and that could be the most aligned with who you are, with your values. But you could add to it. This is a suggestion from us. We take you through the process. We help you being external, independent, if you want advisors to it. Yes? Normally it's equal. When you vote, it's the same. Fadi would have the same weight as I do. So when we vote, it's even though he could be a 50% shareholder and I'm a 0% shareholder, we vote. We vote and we agree, and if we and then. But what's important here is once we agree, don't come back. You know, it's finished. You have to align, and we discussed it yesterday. We don't want to. You disagree with it, it's fine. We turn the page. We move on. Okay.
So once we decide on the growth opportunities that we say these are go-to growth opportunities, for each one we take it and we deep dive into it. So for this, what is the investment? What is the cumulative investment? So we said that we prioritize based on the prioritization matrix. We decided on 3-4 initiatives. What is the investments for each one standalone? What is the cumulative investment next? And then this is where we do a one-pager with the whole details. So overview of the project and the summary of it. What is the investment required? What is the expected IRR generated? Or what is the payback period in terms of years? This is the financial assessment. So what is the purpose of the investment? In this case, it's to get a printing machine. What is the impact on the financials? So we look at the EBITDA impact. We run the numbers. We look at the forecasted cash flows for the next 5 years, and we get a PV, and this is how we calculate the IRR, the payback period. These are the assumptions underlying the financial model that we would have done. And then this is the strategic assessment in terms of the dimensions that we covered before: strategic alignment, financial viability or financial return, and operation feasibility in terms of risk of execution or ease of execution. And this is the recommendation. So is it a go? Is it a reassess? Is it a no-go? And this slide will be discussed during board meetings, and the management will be defending this growth opportunity, and the board will vote on it whether it's a go or a no-go for the organization as a whole.
This is a one-page business plan. You will have maybe in some cases, if it's $1 million investment, it's a more detail. But this is a summary with the key highlights that you have. Quickly continue. So this is another way that you can complement it.
So this is the risk management framework that we covered in the Nyaho case. So for this growth opportunity, what are the lists of risks that we have, the impact and the probability of each? Depending on the impact probability, how do you identify the risk level? Is it a high? Is it a medium? Is it a low one? And then what are the risk mitigation actions that you would take for each one of those risks? who is the responsible party, and this links back, and what is the implementation timeline, and then this would link back to the balance scorecard. So the mitigation actions that were identified here will be key strategic initiatives on the balance scorecard with an owner, with a timeline for execution. And this is the roadmap. So in terms of implementation, how does it go? What are the list of tasks that are included? Who owns each task, and the timeline behind it? And this is the financial model. So this is here an income statement with the volume and million of tons here, and then the revenue provided, the fixed cost, the depreciation, the salaries, and then the operating profit, which is the EBITDA here, other expenses including interest expense and the net profit. And this is done for the forecasted period, so 5 years typically, with the assumptions that go with it, that would be underlying the financial model.
Thank you. Now, what she hasn't said, this is the preparation for what? It's the preparation for the financial model. All of you, profit and non-profit, you need to have a financial model. So the financial model shows where you are. It shows through your growth opportunities, where do you want to go? And it shows you what is the investment needed so that you understand what is the funding gap, how much money do I need, how is this money going to be used, and if we get this money, what is going to be the impact of the organization. What Lama spends a lot of the time is to kick the tire of all those assumptions that we have. So these growth opportunities make sense. She also spends the time in turning those into what? Into the financial model. So by the end of the process, all the companies that we have worked with have not only clear understanding of the growth opportunities, clear understanding of the risk areas and the mitigation action, but they have this reflected into your financial model. What Zena, who is preparing to go and to see her family, what she does is she does this. She puts the financial model for Al-Majmoua. We work together. Lama was working with her to make sure that we know this is how these funding is going to be used. These are the different costs that we have. These are the revenue stream. These are the gross profit margins, because any investor is going to ask for this. Where is your growth going to come from? How much money do you need today? How are you going to use this money? When am I getting paid back if I put you this money? And what should be the form of my exit in case I'm going to be paid back? So these are questions that you need to be in a position to answer, and the financial model and the growth mapping is one way to do it. Now, I know we covered a lot of ground, and I know it's been a long 2.5 days, 2 days behind it. What I want you to get is, one, it's a process. If you get 10% of it today, trust me, it's fine. It's going to grow with time as you're going to expand your responsibilities. This is number one. It is a bit painful, which is fine also. Select what makes sense to you. Select what makes sense to you. Reach out to us. Lama is here. You need help. We're happy to do it on a pro bono basis. Now, if it's an assignment that's going to be 3 or 4 years to do it, it's a different discussion, and we were happy to have discussion with you. Whether you're NGO, whether you are a for-profit, we're here to help you in order to address it. We are looking for actually NGOs in order to start building this portfolio of NGOs that we want to help go through this crisis, because the situation is going to get tougher before it gets better in our country, unfortunately. And there is what I call a fatigue coming from investors that is not only for-profit, but also mostly from NGOs coming in. So we're here to help. The people that you've heard have gone through it. These are people that are also willing to help. We have an extension. You've heard Rassan. Zena was here. You have others. We have programs. So get help. Get help. Keep it meaningful for you. Keep it simple for you. On it, go step by step in terms of the process, and we will provide you. We have libraries of templates, libraries of case studies, and most importantly, it's not the slides, it's really the experience of having gone through very tough times through those organizations in order to spare you some of these tough times. We hope that you appreciated it. We welcome your feedback. There is going to be a form that will ask you to complete on it. We're trying to push this. This is part of, for those of you who have paid You could say the fees, all the fees that you have done are going to go and cover the educational fees of disadvantaged students at USG. We do it purely on a pro bono basis. This is our mandate to be able to plant those seeds. It's our mandate to work with a number of you to help you grow and scale through these difficult times. And we want to do this ourselves in a financially sustainable way. Any questions before we close? Tfaddal. Okay, the time now we could ask. I mean, the first time I met her was probably about 6, 7 years ago. When she first started, she didn't even have the first workshop in Tripoli. This is an ongoing process. You could ask Nadine, it's an ongoing process. You learn as you grow. You apply as you grow on it. Now, to raise funds and to go, so for instance, in our case, because we spent 2.5 hours with you and with the leadership team, this process here could be a 3 months to 6 months process to identify those growth opportunities, put together what we call an investment teaser that could be of interest, put together a financial model, look at who are the potential investors that will go through it. This is the process that could be 3 to 6 months. The reality, if you ask Nadine, Nadine said, I didn't need any funding. I am self-funded, but as a learning process, I learn every day. This is a journey that I learn every day and I adapt every day. I mean, she has been to a number of the workshops. Yani we saw each other. I invited her to be a guest speaker on a number of those. And every time for her, there is a tick. This is something I could do. So it is ongoing. But specifically on a given project, with Beit el-Baraka, it took us 3 months. So this was, but in some cases, with Wakilni, it took us about 4 months to go it. The process is still, but it's never over. Because she raised the first round, now she's going to a second round. Beit el-Baraka, it's not over. We went from a first round, we're going through a second round that we have. Okay, any other questions? Okay, when you're going to do the assessments, for those of you, because what we want to do is we want to spread. We're looking at you as being ambassadors. So what we would like is if you felt that this was of value, give us 1 sentence or 2 sentences. And if you give us, you want to give us your name and your position, to have you as people that would, what are the benefits that you got from it? This help us in terms of spreading the word across other organizations. We will send it all. Lama will. So there is a testimonial with your name. Feel free to include it in it. If there is specific needs that you have, reach out to us. If you want to put them on the evaluation form, reach out to us. Final comments? Thank you. I want to thank you, SG. He's coming now. Okay. So we have Fuad is the dean. Fuad has been working with us. We signed a partnership agreement a year ago. This is our 3rd executive program that we do. We're going to do those on a regular basis. We're going to give now the certificates. Now, if some of you do not have the certificate, just come back to Lama and we'll issue the certificate for you. This is signed by Fuad, by myself. We look forward to working with you. We look forward to having you in other events that we're going to have here and potentially to work with you on a longer journey. All the best. My thanks to Lama. She has been here. All the work, by the way, it's her. All the slides, everything, she has done the work, and I'm greatly appreciative. So where is Fuad? He's coming. Okay. No more questions? No more? Any feedback? Things that you want? I know the NGO thing was important. Other feedback that I got, some of the slides are heavy in terms of documentation for those in the back. The reason we've done, and this is a good point, is because we are using those slides for you so that you could have them. So it's a combination of slides, but at the same time, combination of reference material. But what we will probably do is make it simple in terms of the slides and then send you a more elaborate copies for you to refer back. Any other comments? Yes. Okay, we have all sorts of templates. So templates are important behind it. We're here as a number of the templates were templates that I working with Wakilni, working with Fadi. So we have a number of templates. Be specific, come back to us and say, I need delegation of authority. I need a template on balanced scorecard. I need a template. We will provide you. The template itself is not important. What's important is the process that you go in completing the templates. Bring the team together and we will work and facilitate the templates. It's more in terms of the way you go around the templates, to fill the templates and to hold people accountable in this template. So, but we have the templates, we're happy to share them with you. Okay, yeah. Okay, the timing came up as a question on a number of times. The more that it's every day. So if you ask her, she started this. Look at what Fadi responds. When he was a kid playing football, he had some governance. It's completely different than doing it at the World Cup. But you could start it right now. To set up the boards. Normally, when do you set up a board? It's either when you're going to get major funding, and these funding are asking you for some level of reporting. The board is there. Okay, so if you have a board, it's the first step. So we'll go through the checklist. The timing normally is set by whoever are the donors or whoever are going to be your investors, because they will have requirements. Their term sheet includes responsibilities, and this set of responsibilities ends up being the foundation of your governance. Okay? Yes, you have to go give a... You got yours? You got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And assessments, matrafe, you read out. Okay, where is Fuad? Okay. We're going to give the names. We have the certificates. For those of you who want the certificates, we have the certificates. We're going to issue them. On peut y aller, on va commencer.